Welcome to the Goodyear City Council meeting. We're excited to have you be a part of this important public process. Tonight, you will have the opportunity to address City Council on both non-agenda and agenda items. The agendas and speaker request cards are located on the counter in the lobby outside of the council chambers. You must fill out a speaker request card in order to address the City Council. Please drop your completed card in the tray next to the blank speaker cards. If the meeting has already begun, please hand it to the officer. You may check the "I do not wish to speak" option on the card. This allows you to still voice your opinion on an item on the record without having to speak. In accordance with the Americans with Disabilities Act, please contact a staff member if you need any assistance. Public comment on a non-agenda item will take place during the citizen comment portion of the evening. These are items that don't appear on tonight's formal agenda. The city clerk will call your name when it's time for you to speak. At that time, please approach the podium and tell us your name for the record. You'll have a maximum of 3 minutes. The timer is on the screens visible from the podium. Note that you may also choose not to speak if other speakers before you have said what you wanted to say. Shouting, cheering, and loud noises will not be tolerated, and violators may be removed for disrupting the meeting. Goodyear City Council meetings stream live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and online at goodyearaz.gov. Follow the city's social media pages so you don't miss out on all that's happening in Goodyear. Thank you for coming to this meeting and being an active part of your city. And remember, it's a great time to be in Goodyear.
I'd like to call the regular meeting to order for January 23, 2023. Everybody here? Let's see what we got here. Please join Vice Mayor Cano in the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation. Everybody's noted as being here. Go ahead.
The flag. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father God, we are grateful for our many blessings and for the opportunity to welcome you into our meeting. Give us wisdom as we address the matters of the city tonight. As it has been since 2020, we start 2023 facing uncertainty with forecasts of recession to come. From the pulpit yesterday, Pastor Greg Brown prophesied that you have marked this region for prosperity and protection. Should there be a recession, there will be areas in the nation that will prosper, and Goodyear is such a place. I receive that word and declare it for our city and for our neighboring cities in the West Valley. I bless the businesses, developers, and investors who have chosen Goodyear. I pray that they will prosper and thrive this year, as well as our local schools, employers, and the residents who live here. Lord, we're grateful to continue to give thanks for our police, fire, and military. We are grateful for their courage and strength to serve us. Protect their minds, bodies, and spirits from trauma and adversity, and protect them all from forces who oppose them. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Thank you. Now it's time for citizens who would like to address the City Council on any non-agenda items within the jurisdiction of Goodyear City Council. Any speaker cards?
Yes, Mayor. Jennifer Barber.
Come on up, Jennifer. I think you know, but I'll go ahead and start it out. The City Council will listen to comments and may take any of the following actions: respond to criticism, request that staff investigate and report on the matter, request that the matter be scheduled on future agenda items. You're limited to 3 minutes. There will be something up there that will tell you that you got 20 seconds left, so fire away.
Okay, thank you so much. Good evening, Mayor Pizzillo and members of the council. My name is Jen Barber. I am a small business owner up in Estrella and a resident of 18 years. First of all, a shout out to Jeremy. I know he's not here tonight. Maybe he's at home with his ribs watching. He is doing a phenomenal job at the LEAD program. I love it. I can't get enough of it. So thank you so much to Jeremy. He has a perfect personality for that program. I know many of us are here tonight because we are super excited to see what the plans are for this All-America City as we move forward. but I have a couple of questions. Can we do this? The bigger question tonight is, how can we help? First of all, let's talk about small businesses. Right now, every business in the city of Goodyear pays a $75 annual fee. How can we help? Is it possible for the city of Goodyear to take a look at a tiered fee schedule? Phoenix does it, Bisbee does it, and Bisbee I'd pay $47. So maybe we can check and see if we can do something to make that burden a little bit more proportionate to the size of the companies. Second, the Goodyear Post Office. Is it outgrown? Do you think it's outgrown its space, its site? I do. If you've ever been there in the middle of December, you're lucky if you can find a spot. Goodyear has a history of being a collaborative city. So why don't we have someone tomorrow call the federal government and say, hey, what can we do to support each other to either make wonderful improvements and help either rebuild, relocate, or just at least improve on the current site that we already have? How can we help? Can the city of Goodyear provide passport services here at the city of Goodyear? How can we help? Can the city of Goodyear add a drop box for American flag disposal? Something so that we know that our fire and police are properly disposing of our American flags when they need to be replaced. And let's talk about fire services. How can we help bring down fire response times? Right now, more than half of the fire response times are over 8 minutes. I know that what you see, the stations look like they're 5 minutes, 6 minutes, but in my last FOIA request, I broke that down by 4 minutes, 6 minutes, and 8 minutes. Half of those calls average over 8 minutes. I am the victim of an arson fire. My very good friend lost her entire home. 8 minutes, 4 minutes, would her dog still be alive? These are really important questions, and I want you to think about fire and police services as we move forward tonight. Mayor Pizzillo, you said in a candidate forum last summer that you were in favor of 4-minute response times, and I fully support you. I look forward to seeing how that you're going to do this, and how can I help? How can I help you make that happen for our people? I think it's definitely a priority. And then finally tonight, how can we help preserve that small town feel? When I moved here, I knew the people in my grocery store. My daughter could go to school and the room wasn't cramped. Traffic was a lot better. Right now, the emergency times in the wait room are 6 to 8 hours. Water is a huge issue. And so how can we help? How can we preserve that small town feel of Goodyear that we all love so much? I've been here for 18 years. I want to stay here for even more than that. And I'm happy to help you in any way that I can. Thank you so much for all that you do. I wish you the best of luck in moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Julie, can you kind of wrap up at some point, respond to Ms. Barber on some of the issues?
Yes, Mayor, I'd be glad to. And Ms. Barber also sent in a written with even more details, so thank you.
Yeah, as far as the 4-minute response times, more money for fire stations and more money for response times would be of great help. And hopefully the state working on things down there at the legislature will not take some of our funding away that goes towards that. So I appreciate that. And again, you're right, I am for reduced response times. All right, next, will the city clerk? Yes.
I have one other.
Oh, you have one other? Okay.
Yes, Marcia DeSalvo.
Marcia?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Mayor Pizzola, thank you for letting me have this opportunity to speak tonight. I am a resident of Goodyear, and I live in the Pebble Creek community. And I wanted to talk to you tonight about something that's been evolving over the last 2.5 years that we've lived here. We are not right on top of the 303, but you would not know it because the noise from the 303 is getting worse and worse as more and more development occurs in the form of warehouses and truck traffic. I had reached out initially, for example, when we moved in or when we first chose our lot, it was very quiet in the area and we were very excited to live in a nice, quiet community. However, over time, the 303 did evolve and we are hearing more and more noise and it's really interfering with our peaceful enjoyment. I had written to the AZDOT back in 2021. The response was that any studies that were done prior to the roadway opening, and therefore there would be no more noise abatement studies, which I thought was kind of odd because there's been a lot that has happened since 2020 and 2021. My last communication with the AZDOT was on January 10th of this year, at which time they said they did just finish some additional work where the section of US 60 between 303 and 101 occurs, and they had done some sound mitigation, some noise walls there. However, there's no plans to do anything here because they would only do other noise studies in the event that they were doing road widening or any other enhancements. However, I do feel that as a town, it would behoove us to try to contact them from a more, from the municipal level, just to see what we can do about that. Because it's not myself, it's all of our neighbors. Every cul-de-sac down there where we are in that area is affected by this. And I love that we're growing Goodyear. I think it's great, but all I read about is the way we're doing it responsibly. We're doing it with all of these other factors in mind. And this is something that I feel we really need to address because it's becoming untenable in our backyards. So I thank you.
No, thank you. I believe this comes under ADOT, if I'm not mistaken, Manager, but can we reach out to them and see where they are as far as taking another look at this?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And I'm also going to ask Sue Mead, our engineering director, to meet you outside if you'd like and get some additional information. But yes, it is an ADOT issue, but advocacy is certainly something
Sure,
we're able to do.
and I don't know why we couldn't advocate for
Correct.
trying to take care of that, so. All right, is Sue
Thank you.
here? Where-
Yeah.
Okay, all right, perfect. Thank you for coming up. We good now? Yes. All right. Will the city clerk please read the consent agenda items 1 through 6 by title only?
Number 1, approval of minutes. Number 2, approve the budget amendments and related expenditure authority. Number 3, approve final plat for La Privada parcels 3 and 7, Phase 1, subject to stipulation. Number 4, authorize the mayor to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with City of Glendale to utilize the landfill. Number 5, approve and authorize the city manager to execute a memorandum of understanding, MOU, between Goodyear and Salt River Project, SRP, where SRP agrees to subsidize the annual cost of the WaterFluence water budget efficiency software currently utilized by Goodyear to provide efficiency metric data to water customers with large landscapes. Number 6, authorize the expenditure of design funds for approved fiscal year 2023 CIP project number 42046, Cotton Lane to Estrella Parkway to Cotton Lane Bridge project.
Does anybody on the council wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Seeing none, will the county council please enter a motion and a second to approve the items?
Sorry, it was there.
See a motion and a second. You got the voting opened?
Yeah.
Go ahead. We vote.
It's a button here.
Passes 7-0. There are 6 public hearings on the agenda tonight. The first public hearing item is to consider is the Goodyear Celebration Plaza rezone. Open the public hearing. Go ahead, Alex.
Council. Alex Listinsky, business analyst. Give me 1 second here. Thank you. As you just noted, this is the Goodyear Celebration Plaza rezone request before you tonight. The subject property is approximately 70 acres, located at the southwest corner of Litchfield and I-10. Just in this little southwest corner of that's carved out is the Cancer Treatment Centers, now City of Hope. The next item I believe on the agenda will be discussed is just west of my subject property, but that's the Urban District 10 PAD. Litchfield runs just to the east of the property. Celebrate Life Way is just south of the property. I-10 is on the north side. And then some retail spaces exist to the east side of Litchfield Road, Yates, there's the Amazon facility, Rudy's, Starbucks, and some auto shops. Having a second of technical, okay. The subject property today is all zoned planned area development or preliminary planned area development. This west half is actually part of a planned area development, which I'll show you that outline in my next slide. The east half is part of the Goodyear Palms Plaza PAD, which I will also discuss. To the north, the I-10 and the vacant land is zoned agriculture. CTCA is part of a planned area development. Directly south, this used to be anchored by Fry's. Now it's a mix of uses, but is zoned C2 general commercial. And then to the east is that Palm Valley Crossing planned area development. In the general plan, the subject property is designated for business and commerce, which allows for a mix of uses, including multifamily residential. So like I mentioned, the west half of the subject property is part of the Goodyear Gateway, the Airport Gateway at Goodyear PAD. It's designated as business park and restricts uses that are similar to the CO Commercial Office District and the C1 Neighborhood Commercial District. That was approved in 2007, and the C2 development standards apply to the property today. The east half, like I mentioned, is called Goodyear Palms Plaza PAD. The PAD did designate the development of the property as C2 general commercial development standards. The PAD did specify retail, office, and hotel uses within the planned area development. It didn't have any breakdown of uses. There was a conceptual site plan included in that PAD, but it was not approved with that PAD. But any commercial sites could have been developed with the C2 district today. The Celebration Plaza PAD request before you tonight is a rezone to a mix of uses with a PAD overlay, including approximately 14 acres of MF24, 17 acres of MF12, 15 acres of commercial office, 11 acres of C2 general commercial, and approximately 10 acres of a hybrid zoning district that allows for MF24 after 8 months, I'm going to say that wrong, CO commercial office post-adoption of the ordinance, and then a 18-month period where after 18 months it can be developed as MF24. I'll get into a little more details in a few slides on that. But the PAD also includes a few development standards and design guidelines that are modified within the PAD. This is a breakdown of the land use included within the PAD. So the commercial office sits just north of the CTCA site. This blue and orange is that hybrid district area. 18 months following the adoption, if approved, would be designated for strictly commercial office. Following that 18 months, if the site is not developed or in progress of being developed, it can be developed as MF24. The MF12 district is just east of the CTCA site. This exhibit shows a park open space amenity that the developer has committed to. And then along Litchfield Road is the general commercial, typical C2 general commercial zoning district. So for the MF12 standards, there's the deviation that is requested from the MF12 standards is to change that density. Right now it's a maximum of 12 dwelling units per acre, but to change that density from 10 to 15. So minimum 10, maximum 10, 15 to, oh my goodness, maximum 15 dwelling units per acre. The other additional standard that we included in the PAD was to allow this development to be subdivided. So we've seen that recently with the Curve development, I think BB Living as well, platting those lots that are a little bit more dense for future buyers as opposed to, or I guess in addition to rental units. Another two standards, these kind of go hand in hand, is to increase the maximum height of the development in the MF12 district to 30 feet. To increase the urban feel of this area. The applicant has agreed to a minimum of 2 stories per unit. So traditionally in like a Christopher Todd type or the Avila type, we've seen single-story units in these MF12 districts, but to provide for a more urban feel, dense feel, they have committed to 2 stories per unit within this MF12 district. The other standards that are deviated, included in the PAD, are to increase the lot coverage. That's going to provide for more opportunities for that townhome style development, and then reduce setbacks. One thing to note here is that the general plan with the business and commerce designation does have a requirement that multifamily be above 18 dwelling units per acre. So the applicant has committed to the fact that within the entire development area with MF12 and MF24, that the minimum density within the property will be 18 dwelling units per acre. So that's that little footnote down there. So if they build a certain amount of dwelling units down here, they'd have to build more residents to the north to account for that 18 overall. And then, so just as I was kind of explaining, a little bit of justification for those trade-offs, it does provide for a higher intensity product. So we've got the minimum 2-story, opportunities for individual ownership, and then enhanced architectural design guidelines included in the PAD. Additionally, they have committed to that 1.5 acre public park, open to the public, trails connecting to that park, but it is to be privately maintained by this MF12 developer. The MF24 standards, the only deviations is to increase that density from 24 dwelling units per acre to 30 dwelling units per acre, just offer that flexibility, and then increase the building height. Currently in the MF24 standards, it's 40 feet maximum building height. They're proposing 56 feet in building height, which is comparable to the C2 General Commercial District. The hybrid request, as I mentioned, is about 10 acres right between the CO district and the MF24 district. That would be within the first 18 months after zoning approval. It can be developed as commercial office. Then following that, it can be developed as either commercial office or multifamily 24, subject to the PAD standards. The commercial office standards increase the height from 30 feet, what's written in the code today, to a maximum of 56 feet. This is pretty comparable to the CTCA property, and then typical general commercial. And then in the C2 district, there's no changes requested to the city's C2 standards. However, the applicant has agreed to use restrictions, so we've thinned out the commercial C2 use list. They've also agreed to a maximum of 1 drive-through within the development, and then a maximum of 1 gas station. So it wouldn't be 4 drive-throughs all the way down Litchfield. We've seen similar situations recently, but they have agreed to making that commitment. Like I mentioned, no changes requested to the standards. Oh, I just said this, and I meant to say it on the next slide, but max 1 drive-through, max 1 gas station. Included in the PAD is a commitment to public trails. There's the main one that surrounds the property, so I think, I don't have the number in front of me, but it is an extensive trail that goes around the property and through the sites, and then connecting to that public park. And then if gated, these would be private trails within sites that would provide connectivity throughout. These are just the list of evaluation criteria that staff found to be the request in conformance with that general plan designation. We found the site to be suitable, compatible with adjacent land uses. I'm not going to read all of them, but included in the staff report, there was additional evaluation provided. Public participation, we did have a neighborhood meeting at City Hall on October 18th. There was actually 4 attendees, 3 of which were employees of the Marriott Hotel just south of the property, and they were just curious and interested in what would be developed just north of the site. And then 1 was a resident who was in across the hall for a different meeting. She was just curious about what it was being proposed. She was actually excited about the trail that was proposed in here. She wanted more opportunities for that. We did provide notice as required by the zoning ordinance for public hearings. In my slide, I talk about no objections. In the last week, we have received 2 objections via email. I think they all went to council. At the Planning and Zoning Commission public hearing, there were no objections received. That was January 11th. And Planning Commission recommended approval, 6-0 at that meeting. Staff found, like I said, it to be in conformance with all the evaluation criteria and recommends approval subject to the draft stipulation, or subject to the stipulations in the draft ordinance included in your packets. That completes my presentation. The applicant is here and has a presentation available or can answer any questions. Thank you.
Would the applicant like to say anything at this time?
Jeff Bliley, 701 North 44th Street. Mayor and Council, thanks for allowing me to speak. Here on behalf of the applicant, what we're asking for tonight is a rezone of the 70 acres, as Alex has pointed out. The acreage has been zoned for commercial and office for the last 15 years, and there's been no activity on the property to date. We've spent the better part of the last 2 years working with staff and the city to go over a land plan that we feel is more appropriate for today, that we hope will spur some development in the area. I think when the property was originally zoned, I believe, I'm sure the thought was that the Cancer Treatment Center may spur some medical office development. We're hopeful that that still happens. It hasn't happened to date, but we've set aside the 15 acres that Alex pointed out for medical office in the right spot in the property. The site really isn't a commercial anchored type of property. We don't envision this ever being a supermarket type of site or Walmart type of site. There's just so much of that in the area. In fact, the 2 commercial sites just south of us at the intersections of Van Buren and Litchfield were both grocery store anchored sites that have kind of changed to a church and a Goodwill anchored sites now. So we really think that the commercial that we're providing, the 11 to 13 acres along the frontage, is really appropriate for this area. We think we can bring some users in there. We've had discussions about limiting the drive-throughs, and we've agreed to do that to just 1 drive-through. So we're hopeful we can get some sit-down restaurants, some hotels, that type of user in there. We think that that's really appropriate for the site. We also think it's important to bring in the residential, and we've worked with the city on the 3 different housing product types that we're bringing in. We've got the rental units, but we've also got for sale units on smaller lots. And that's why a lot of the development standards had to be modified in order to subdivide within the MF12 zoning district. So we're hopeful that we can move forward with that. The unique thing about the project is we do have that 1.5 acre park that Alex pointed out. That'll be a public park, open to everybody, and we've situated it right in the center of the property, right next to the Cancer Treatment Center. So we think it'll be used by persons visiting there and working there, as well as folks residing and working in our project as well. We didn't put it behind the gates. We didn't put it behind the fence. It's right out there in the public. It's also important that the main trail that envelops the entire project is about 1.5 miles, and that will also be outside the gates. So it's not going to be inside the gates. It'll actually be, if there's a multifamily piece up closer to the I-10, there'll be a trail between, their fence line and the I-10. So you'll be able to circumnavigate the whole project. There'll be private trails internal. If there were some gated communities, they would have private accesses out to the public trails. And then, of course, there'll be trails and sidewalks connecting all the commercial and everybody to this. So we think we've got a really nice project that we're moving forward with. We're hopeful we can get your support. The Planning and Zoning Commission was very enthusiastic support for the project. We do have another presentation we put together. I don't know how much time you want me to spend on it. I think the renderings that we showed in our book, I think are pretty impressive from my perspective, and I believe the Planning and Zoning Commission was quite pleased with those as well. And we'd be happy to show them to you right now if you'd like to see them, but I know they're in your book and you can see them. So just here to happy and answer any questions you may have.
Why don't you wait until after we close, and we'll have some other speakers, and I'm sure the council will have some questions for you.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you. Any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
So let me go ahead, let's see. Anybody else like to speak? All right, with that, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. Will the city clerk please read the resolution number 2023-2279 by title only?
Adopt resolution number 2023-2279, declaring as public records the certain documents referred to and incorporated by reference in ordinance number 2023-1562, filed with the city clerk related to the rezoning case for Goodyear Celebration Plaza planned area development.
Can I get a motion and a second? I see that already on the board. With that, open for council discussion. Let's see, go ahead and start clicking on for the discussion. Two, okay, I've got, let's see, Vicky's up first.
Can you bring that slide up again where it shows everything?
I forget.
Bill.
Yeah, I'd like to see that slide again, please. That one.
Oh, here you go.
Yep. Okay, first of all, I have a question. The most important thing to me is the Cancer Treatment Center. And do we have any ideas of how they feel about this?
Mayor, Councilmember Gillis, there was a letter sent to the council regarding support for the cancer treatment centers. I would ask the applicant, I know they've worked pretty closely with them, so that maybe he's already standing. Okay, great.
Thank you, I forgot to mention that. We did get a letter from the Cancer Treatment Center, the director over there, and he supports what we're doing, and we've had multiple conversations with him over the course of while this process has been going on, and he's been very supportive of what we're doing. So I think that letter that you have from the Cancer Treatment Center is in the record.
Okay, because that would be really important to me, is not to push them out, because we're pretty lucky here in Goodyear to have them.
Right.
And this is a pretty big development, and I want to make sure that we're not upsetting them in any way.
Yeah, one of the things we did, kind of at the last minute was to create that 10-acre hybrid parcel. So the 15-acre parcel will support about 300,000 square feet of office development, which is quite a bit of office development.
Do we know anybody that's going in there yet?
We don't. I mean,
Because that's going to take 18 months before we know
well,
something, right?
we've got the 15 acres, that'll support 300,000. The other 10 would support probably another 200,000. So if, we're actively marketing it right now for office. We don't want to wait 18 months.
Great.
To sell the property. We're marketing it. I know the city is marketing it and has some interest in it. So we'd love to see, all 25 acres go as office.
Medical office,
Sure.
hopefully?
Yeah, that's what we'd like to
Would
see.
be nice.
Yeah.
Okay, and what about E, the general commercial area? You said no more than one gas station or one fast food, basically drive-through?
No more than one drive-through.
So how much room is there for, how many other commercial sites could go there? Such as a hotel or restaurant, sit-down restaurant?
Oh, you could get, 7, 8 pads, Mark? About 5. 5 pads total? Yeah, with a hotel. With a hotel. So, a hotel and 5 additional pads.
You could, in that area.
Oh, yeah.
And what is the noise going to be like from the I-10 for that multi-level, the multifamily? Are you
Well-
doing anything special for that, because it is close to the I-10?
I think the city has noise standards that we have to deal with when we do the development. One of the nice things about it, that I-10 does have a kind of banks right there, and then most of the multifamily will be off the off-ramp, so there'll be
Yeah, I
some
walked it
additional-
the other day.
It's a little more distant from the travel lanes themselves, but the city has sound standards that we have to meet when we do development.
Okay.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Thank you for the question. There is sound attenuation standards adjacent to within a certain specific distance from the interstate, from I-10. The sound decibel level in the interior of the units is 64 decibels is my recollection off the top of my head, which is meeting some ADOT standards. So they achieved that through a methodology of construction techniques, from certain types of windows to certain types of exterior construction, and sort of baffling with particular vents and things of that nature. But it's something that the architects for the project, as they move forward, would take under consideration in their design. But there is standards there, and it is something that we would require the architect to certify.
Okay, That's a for sure.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, and my last question would be the enhanced architecture. What are you talking?
Well, we showed renderings in the PAD book that were committed to that, so that flavor of enhanced architecture. So I think when you see this, we've already had a pre-app on some portion of the site. So you're going to see when we go through the design review that staff's going to be holding us to those renderings that we've depicted in our PAD book.
That's great, because I'm new, so I haven't seen a lot of this.
Okay,
So, and that's something that I would like to see.
yeah.
I don't know if you have anything here today.
It's in our presentation if you'd like to see it.
I would like to see it.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and bring that up?
Especially because where it's going to be located and in front of the Cancer Research Center.
Do you have the PAD book, Alex?
Yep. Can I have this other Epson Elmo? It's always Elmo in our hearts.
That's right. I don't know if they heard you.
Oh my gosh.
Takes police to do that?
Dang.
There's a couple pages, so.
So we included renderings of all the residential home product, the office, and then the commercial. I think what she's on is the commercial renderings right now,
Okay.
which she may be more interested for the frontage along Litchfield.
I'm actually interested in all of it.
Okay, yeah, they're all there.
Can you start where the commercial is?
Right.
The multifamily, do it the sequence of what we're looking at on our map, please.
So that's the commercial renderings. That would be the office. That would be the multifamily 24.
Is that D? D is in dog? Bravo. Oh, B is in Bravo. What happened to D?
Well, the hybrid would be the office or the multifamily 24.
What is this?
This is the MF12, what we're proposing for the detached, I believe. These would be the detached product.
Nice, okay.
And then this is the MF12 for the attached two-story.
Very nice, okay. Is that it?
Yes.
Can you go back to the office, please, the office building? Okay. Okay, so this is something that is a for sure. I mean, you are going to keep up, even though we rezone it, then if it takes 18 months or longer to build it, right? This is
Correct.
something that you're going to stick with the planning commission, right?
Right, this is included in the actual zoning document.
Okay.
So it's something that we'll have to adhere to,
That's what I want to make sure of.
yes.
Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
Councilmember Campbell?
Okay, so my question is the multifamily versus commercial. Multifamily versus commercial.
One more, there you go.
Are you building the multifamily first or the commercial first?
We'll build whatever the market is right now. The MF24, given the status of today's market, is slowed down. There's not a lot of market right now for MF24. So I think what you'll see first is the MF12 and pad sites for the commercial would be the first stuff to go in.
Yeah, I just was on the Zoom with GPEC today, and they were very optimistic. So I'm more optimistic than you're optimistic of what's gonna happen apparently, so. My question is, if you don't build, if you're gonna build commercial in C and commercial in D, but if 18 months passes and you don't have commercial, you're gonna put multifamily in there.
You're referring to
I'm referring to this.
hybrid, okay, so the hybrid parcel is commercial office, so that would never be commercial. It doesn't allow for typical C2 type of uses, it's an office type use. So it's either gonna go office, or if it doesn't go office, then it could go either office or multifamily.
That's parcel D.
D, correct.
Okay. And then parcel B, you want multifamily, and is that MF12 or MF24?
Sorry, I apologize.
Okay,
Parcel B is the MF24 parcel.
24, okay, and then I'm gonna ask the same question for A. Would that be the 12?
That's the 12, yes.
Okay. My only concern, after seeing all of this, it's a wonderful project. I think it's a great use. It's the last of our freeway. It's all we have left in Goodyear. Once it's gone, we have no frontage road left to do anything with at all. And in talking to some of my mayor friends from the East Valley, they say, don't give the land away so easily. So I'm just wondering if this really is what we want to do. We had envisioned a hotel and a conference center around CTCA, and that's what was sold to us when CTCA came. They came and built their building, then they bought the 40 acres, and that's what we envisioned. And we were hoping that it would be a complete medical center there and let CTCA be the crown jewel in the middle, because the doctor's office or the plastic surgeon's office or the dentist or whatever would be all around it. And I'm really concerned that we're sticking a bunch of houses in there, and it's very troubling. I'm sorry to say. I thought it was a wonderful idea until I actually got out and walked the project, looked at it, and realized this is it. Whatever we do, you can't turn it back. So I'm really in the middle. So, but I'm just letting you know. I'm on the fence.
We've preserved the piece of property that has the best freeway visibility. Most of the multifamily is adjacent to the off-ramp, so it's really not that visible. And that particular section of I-10 has a bank to it, so when you're
But it doesn't have much of a bank. I mean, y'all are talking about, we have noise, we have all of this stuff on the books that we're supposed to have good windows and the noise and this, that, and yet we have people from Pebble Creek coming in complaining about the noise from the 303, and we can't give them any relief. And I don't want a double standard here. I don't want to build a bunch of apartments and homes right on I-10, knowing that they're not going to have any peace and quiet in their backyard because of the noise. That's what worries me. The offices are only during the day, but I don't know. That's just my concerns. So that's it. Thank you.
Brandon?
Yeah, thank you. So I had some just clarifying questions as well. So on the multifamily, that's going to be an 18-month, is that correct? So 18 months, it can convert to multifamily if they do get someone or they don't get somebody.
Correct.
Okay. And then what percentage of this Section A is going to be actually someone that someone can actually buy? Is there a percentage that you have that's going to be guaranteed, or is it somewhat of a hybrid where you're going to be, if the market allows for it, it's going to start as multifamily apartment rental, or then it switches over to, if the market allows it to, just like any of our other Christopher Todd style products could convert to a buy-sell model as well?
Councilmember Hampton, there's no requirements for them to do the for sale product or a certain breakdown in the PAD. This is the multifamily closer to Celebrate Life Way. They did submit a pre-application for, so they might have a plan that they want to share. I would leave that to them because there's nothing restricted.
Okay, so it could be whatever whatever the market allows, essentially. So they're not committing to a for sale product necessarily.
Not at this time.
Okay. And if we did nothing, the zoning is still C2, or can they still do the commercial office here as well? Which they've always should be able to.
This might be easier if I go back to my slide. Can I have the slide back?
I know they're asking for a height increase.
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
to 56 feet.
Correct. On the west side, this piece, that is the business park, currently CO, C1 districts, that's comparable. On the east side is this half. That is what's designated for C2 uses, retail, office, hotels in that PAD right now.
Just a clarification, I believe the east side is a preliminary PAD, so in order to actually develop on it, we'd have to do a whole zoning case on it. We can't develop under the preliminary PAD. So the portion that we have designated for CO, that we're asking for CO on now, couldn't technically develop as CO until it gets rezoned. Because it's only a preliminary PAD right now.
Okay, and then I'm not on, okay. I'm back. And then, so, looking at it now, I'm fine with the commercial portion of this, and to Councilmember Campbell's position, we only have so much land along the I-10. I'm not okay with it as it is presented today. I might be looking for an amendment at some point here, especially around the multifamily. I don't think the multifamily needs to be right up against the freeway. I think there's other uses for that in the city that can be utilized at. I look at even Abrazo. I don't see any multifamily around Abrazo, and it's doing pretty well. I see a lot of commercial office and retail around Abrazo and that hospital as well. So I know multifamily is a need, but I believe there's better uses or better locations for that use in the city. So, okay with the commercial portion, and I said I might, this isn't the time right now, but at some point tonight to ask for an amendment to approve the commercial, not the commercial for hybrid, but stay commercial. And then I guess I'm looking for continuation of commercial and for at least the preliminary plat until we get some more options around that as well. I know it's been a lot of hard work to get to this point, but I think for this particular area and for a large healthcare provider that will definitely set the tone for our city going forward, I don't think that the multifamily use is the best use for this area right here. And there's lots of data. I know I've seen some other emails come through recently, even from some of our other residents talking about just with the noise, to Councilwoman Campbell's point as well, the noise, the residents that are up against the areas, and some of the projects that I've already voted against, up against the freeways as well, other multifamilies. So, so with that, I'll be voting no, but I will probably want an amendment at some point here as well. Thank you.
You good? Next up is Councilmember Laurentano.
Well, thank you very much. I know you've been working very hard on trying to get this through and try to figure out what our vision is for that area. There's parts of this that I really do like. I'm not in love with the whole project, but there's parts that I really do like. I want to give you kudos on your slide that shows the park that you were going to do there on slide 7. Could you put that up? I think it was slide 7. It's 7 of 18 on your presentation. I think it's on the developer's presentation.
Oh.
Like, that's a different 7. I don't know if we can get that up, but it's a very, still going around? Someone has the power there.
It's in this one.
I think it's page 7.
See the little, it's got the little,
Next one.
the next one.
Next one. That one, that one. And that is how you envision, right, the park? Okay. The only thing I would add, I'm not sure if it's there, would be the covered, we always cover the tot lots for the children here.
Okay.
So that would definitely be, so I do like that, the water feature. I think that's in a great position where you can walk from cancer treatment. Those are the type of features I like. I really do like your frontages for your commercial. I think that is very nice. It's very modern, different than what we have. I'm very positive on that. The area that kind of gets me is that transition, the 18 months. I'm not very comfortable with that in this market, as was brought out, you know, even in our prayer today about the economic conditions that we're looking at and the increased interest rates. I think we're setting that up. If we approve this, I would be concerned that we're basically setting that up for definitely to be multifamily. Because I don't think in 18 months, you know, I just have those concerns with the economy, the continued rise in interest rates, how that's going to take effect right now. So I do have concern about the 18-month window that you can revert it back to multifamily rather than commercial. And then the multifamily, I still think there needs to be a little, I'm not in love with the frontages. I think they look very, the last one with the, I think it was the MF12 or with the white, just looked very kind of drab to me.
We've actually had some conversations with staff about the paint colors.
Yeah, it's
They'll
just,
be-
we went from gray, gray, gray to white, white, and
Yeah.
whitest and cream. So I really don't think, for me, we're there yet. I do have concerns about putting that, this is really the last gateway, I think is a good way to phrase it, that we do have into the city. And that I'm just not there with the type of multifamily. To put multifamily there, you really got to have something that's, I want to say almost shock and awe, that's just so unique that someone's going to say, okay, this is the exit to, I'm off this exit ramp. Am I going to be looking at cream stucco, or am I going to come down that exit ramp and I'm going to see something, if you're going to put multifamily there, something with some glass, some windows, something very modern, something very almost explosive that someone's going to say, wow. So I'm not opposed totally to having multifamily there. It's just I'm not seeing it in this plan. So at this point, I'm not a yes. Can I get to yes? Possibly at some point, but just not with those things in the 18-month. That just gives me heartburn right now. I'm sorry.
Councilmember Stipp?
Thank you, Mayor. I've got a couple of questions on this. We talked a lot about the 18-month hybrid feature. Why is that in place? Somebody? It doesn't have to be Alex.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Sorry. Mayor, Councilmember Stipp, thank you for the question. Essentially, we proposed that to the developer in order to provide a window of opportunity to work in order to land something other than apartments adjacent to the interstate. So it was a compromise that the property owner and the developer were willing to make with the city in order to give us an opportunity to have something other than apartments adjacent to the interstate.
So that was city initiated, not developer initiated.
It was part of the negotiation with the PAD, yes, sir. Essentially, it was us initiating it.
But we
yes,
asked
sir.
for it.
We asked for it.
Yeah, okay. So, and the compromise between what was being asked and what the property owner and the developer was, 18 months seemed to be satisfactory on both sides.
Yes, sir. Initially, we asked for 24 months, and we landed on 18.
Sure, could have started with 36, right?
We could have, yes, sir.
Okay, so, so the 18 months is not developer generated, so I'm just going to kind of summarize that. This is consistent with the general plan, so we're not looking for a general plan amendment or anything else. So CTCA is supportive. I gathered that as well. I'm just trying to gather everything else, the notes that I've been taking. Urban density. That's really what we're talking about here. Why is that so important from a planning perspective?
So Alex will chime in here as well. The general plan has some minimum density requirements for housing units in the business and commerce section of the land use designation, which is 18 units an acre, and so that's the threshold that they have to get above. And so we asked for that in order to get the support of the general plan, and then additionally, more rooftops there is in a location is better because it better supports the adjoining commercial, and is a community benefit from that perspective.
So a more dense population or residential centers are more advantageous to all the businesses around there.
Yes, sir.
And we're seeing that not just here, but we're seeing that around here physically, Civic Square and GSQ and other areas, we're seeing that. You know, the highway frontage has been a discussion as well, and I have to think right across the highway from this, all of that land north of I-10 is still vacant. Right? Alex is shaking her head. I mean, you know, if you drive that, you know that north of I-10 is all vacant. So what are we really preserving? This cancer treatment center area has been in existence for over 15 years. Cancer Treatment Center has owned this property for the majority of that time and has been unable to develop it. So I don't know what we think during our greatest growth period between 2006 and 2023. If they haven't been able to move it then, why do we think waiting another 15 years is going to be any different? I just kind of asked that generically of my colleagues. We've had the debate about houses up against the freeway, and Alex, I think, can you go back a couple of slides? I think it might be that slide I'm looking at. Nope, it's the other way, sorry. Yep, it was that one.
Oh, sorry. This one?
Yeah, and I know it's going to be hard for you to zoom in because you've got the green line around it, and the one I'm looking at's got a red line highlight. Most of those buildings are oriented away from the freeway, and those that run parallel to the freeway are pretty far away from a geographic perspective. I'm looking at the word property line. There's right there, that building, and then the buildings, the next one over, where the other ones are oriented north and south. Those are the two that are oriented east and west. Everything else is pretty far away, and it's off the freeway. It's off the off-ramp. So we've put some separation in there, and if we're able to bring the urban density to this area to support the commercial, which has not ever gone in there either, and we all know how we've struggled to get commercial, retail, restaurant in that entire corridor, this seems like the right opportunity for us to do that. Plus, we're adding a park next to Cancer Treatment Center, and I agree, Wally, we had the vision of that whole area was the Cancer Treatment Center patients can go for a walk, they can, be in that area, they can walk to a restaurant, the hotels that were built right down the street, the families could stay there, or the patient could be there and it was a short, et cetera. None of that CTCA vision materialized, but now we've got an opportunity to take advantage of the current market to make it go. And if we initiated the 18-month hybrid scenario, I can only imagine it's because we've got something up our sleeve, or at least we're getting a temperature reading from somewhere that says this is a potential viable scenario. So if none of that is going to work, and there's something else that we can do to bring this along, I hate to lose 18 months or 2 years worth of work on staff's behalf and on the applicant's behalf to, if we're close enough to the finish line but not everybody's there, perhaps we table this project and we ask them to go back and look at it, as opposed to voting on it straight tonight. But we're getting offices, we're getting the urban density that we want around that area, and we're bringing in some restaurant pads, and there's even a pad for a hotel, but, I mean, quite honestly, I don't think we're gonna get a hotel there. We haven't gotten one in 15 years. They seem to be locating elsewhere. And that conference center and all of the grand office space we want, the plan is to bring it here, to GSQ, not spread it out to that part of the city. And we all know, and we should know, what is happening with the market, and timing is critical. And I think the time of what was originally thought was gonna be this whole medical campus of things, that died many years ago. So let's look at what we can do today and perhaps move this forward. That's all I got.
Vice Mayor.
Well, I've had the advantage of being on the journey with you for these last couple years, talking about this project, and we've had a number of very frank conversations about what we liked and didn't like. And from where it started and where you've come, it's been tremendous. You've definitely have been responsive to our concerns and things that we wanted to see changing, realizing that this mixed use has really been successful here in Goodyear. I think we're seeing it here north of I-10 around GSQ that is promoting business. We added multifamily to our Canyon Trail Shopping Center to give that area a boost as well. So I think we have a model that mixed use works well. I think what you've presented in terms of the urban density, that urban feel, to me, looks like it would be an economic advantage to that area. This could be the catalyst that Litchfield Road has been needing to develop into what it had former glory, but now it needs a new look. I think you've come a long way with the trails and the amenities. Considering for sale units was a big move as well. And I think that the city has worked really hard on this, and my recollection of the 18-month window was that our economic development team felt that they could make something happen in that time. And I would say if we pass this, then there's definitely going to be that pressure to work with you. I know you're marketing it, and we'll have them actively marketing it, because we want it to be the office space. We want it to be the medical whatever, as opposed to additional multifamily. But it was my recollection that they seemed that was a feasible time frame. So I am in support of this project. I think that you have heard our concerns over the times we've been talking about it, and you've come back with a good product.
Thank you.
Councilmember Campbell.
I just had a question. Alex, for 56 feet, is that 1, 2, 3, 4 stories? What is it?
Typically, it's about 4 or 5.
4 or 5 stories. And Cancer Treatment Center is how tall?
Cancer Treatment Center, when I looked at the plans, it was about 68 with architectural features to the top.
So it's not going to go over it?
Correct.
Okay. And regarding the park, am I to understand that this park is going to be open to all of the multifamily plus the cancer treatment centers, or is it just for the cancer treatment center?
The park is public and open to anybody.
Okay. Well, as a cancer survivor, recently finishing my cancer treatments, you're so compromised with your immune system, you can't go to a public park if there's other people around. So keeping that in mind, that park could be used by CTCA, but most likely it'll probably be used by whatever's built up there. I mean, I think it's a wonderful use of it, but you're dealing with a different population when you're dealing with folks that are in treatment at CTCA. And that's all I have to say.
Councilmember Hampton.
Yeah, I'm still not supportive of the project, but I just wanted to address some things. This fallacy about how nothing's happened in 15 years, so nothing will ever happen again in 15 years from now. I think Goodyear is definitely a different Goodyear than it was 15 years ago when other council members were on the city council. And to cut our future short by saying that we're the same that we were 15 years ago, I think is incorrect and short-sighted. And the whole sunk cost fallacy about, well, we've already put all this time in it, so we have to do it, I think is incorrect as well, logically. So, and I think that why the retention basin north of the freeway isn't done yet is because us as a council have not done an economic development study to push that forward. That's been us to not let that go forward.
And we didn't.
There's a lot of economic development possibility there, and that's the reason why it hasn't moved forward yet. So I'm still against the 18-month window. I'd hate to see us not get that window, and then there's be more multifamily there. And I'm still against the multifamily being up against the freeway. Canyon Trails is doing pretty good without that apartment complex being done. We've seen a lot of growth there. It could be the other 10,000 residents that'll be moving there, other than that apartment complex that hasn't even been created yet. So, so I think not to count Cancer Treatment Center out, especially since it's been bought by a $7 billion foundation, the City of Hope. I think there's renewed interest there. I think that they are bringing like users to the area that are also interested in it. So I'd hate to lock in the future of this area with something that would maybe choke the Cancer Treatment Centers of America, especially with there's new leadership there that could definitely benefit our city going forward. Because like the mayor likes to say, we're in there forever business, and I'd like to see us look longer term than shorter term. So thank you.
Okay, I've got two more, and then we're going to cut, okay? We've got Councilmember Gillis.
I wanted to say that I agree with Sherry that the front, if we could do something to really make that front with a wow factor, that looks really great, glass, whatever, something more than what's there. It's not looking bad, but because of where it's going to be located, if there was more of a wow factor there, I think that would make a difference. I also agree with Wally and Brannon. I have several friends that are dealing with cancer right now as we speak, and the immune systems are very, very low. I'm concerned about the park for them as well. I think it's a great idea, but if you've got a lot of people in that park that don't have cancer, you have to be concerned with that. And it's such a great idea. For the Cancer Institute, it's a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so much we can do. We can't make it private just for the patients. I
Right.
think we kind of envision it for the employees, the doctors and nurses, as well as visitors.
Yes, I get that. But that is a point, Wally's got a good point with somebody that does have cancer. With Bill, and because I'm new, this is new to me, you're not saying that it would take 15 years to bring in something again. We could table this issue and come back and look at this soon, if they were to fix some things that you're wondering about?
Yeah, my comment about tabling was we would table it, giving them specific direction to look at something.
Yes.
And then to come back with that, not 15 years from now, but
It wouldn't take 15.
it wouldn't be a
Right,
date
okay.
specific, but it would
Okay.
certainly be a time specific.
Yeah, I was hoping that was what you meant. Okay, that's what I had. Thank you.
And Councilmember, if I could have Mark Reddy, our planner, he could probably address the park issue
Okay,
as well as
great.
some of the architectural features.
Great, I would like to hear it.
Good evening. My name is Mark Reddy with RVI Planning and Landscape Architecture,
Hi, Mark.
4900 North Scottsdale Road. Alex, can you pull up the park design that we had up earlier? So I did want to address the park concern that a couple people have brought up. When we designed this park, we actually took that into account. If you go back one more slide, we designed the park in two different segments. We have a passive element, which is more for contemplation and sitting, and we did the water feature, and we have an art mural. And so the south half of it that's in the blue, that's closest to the cancer treatment, is the passive portions of the park. So that area is more secluded, it's more quiet. And then the active area is the northern area where we have the playgrounds and the great lawn and some of the picnic areas. And so we did intentionally create two different segments of that park, specifically to keep the kids and the noise and the active stuff on the north side, and keep that passive area with the water feature that can drown out some of that other noise, and really provide a nice space for people just to be outside and enjoy nature. And we're doing native desert plant materials. We have that mural wall. We have the sunlight garden. and then the water feature in that area. So we did design the park thinking about those comments that you had brought up. So I did want to bring that up.
Okay, that's important to hear. That's why I wanted to hear that.
Yeah, the second thing was related to the architecture. And I also want, and this was brought up by a couple of you, and I wanted to mention, in the PAD book, we created a series of design guidelines that address the exact things that you're talking about. For example, one of the guidelines is that we have to have at least 3 colors. We can't just have one. There's got to be accent colors and primary colors within all of the different site plans. We have to have different roof pitches and roof materials for each of the buildings. One of the elements, and I'm just going to pull this up, forgive me for looking at my phone because I don't have it memorized, but there are a series of architectural design requirements that we have to include, and I'll just read a couple of them. One of them is to articulate articulated parapet lines that include variations in height, express window heads and sills, variation in stucco pattern, shading elements with awnings, a variety of window articulation, stepped cornice detail, celebrating entries, and complementary color palettes. So a lot of those architectural design features that you're talking about are built in and required as part of the PAD. Because we don't have users yet, we don't have precise architecture, but what we've done and working very closely with staff is develop design guidelines that give the city assurance that whatever the style is, the quality and the materials and the detailing is going to be at a high level. And so I just wanted to point that out, that that is a requirement in the PAD document, regardless of the architectural style that we pick. Those details have to be provided.
Thank you.
Councilmember Loretano?
I guess my question was, if, I think you brought that up from Councilmember Stipp, was if we could table this, if that would be a possibility, because for me, it's still that 18 months. I know that might have been something that we might have started at 36 months. I might be more comfortable to a 24 to a 36-month period with the economy where it's at. I am not comfortable with an 18 months with everything that's changed, and literally the interest rates in 4 months have gone up more than they have in the last 20 years. So I am not comfortable with that specific right now. Because the thing when we first started on this journey with this area was my bugaboo was the too much multifamily on the freeway. And if that 18-month reverts, that's the one thing I didn't like. That was my big no. At the very first meeting we had, I was like, too much, too much. So if we can work out something where, you know, we have some confidence that we can get past this slow cycle and we can move on and then have the medical there or keep that commercial, then I would probably be more with it than we make sure we've got the highlights of the property. So that's just my thoughts. I'm not sure exactly what the procedure is to do that. So I guess that's an attorney question.
No, maybe table, and let me go ahead. First thing I want to add is, for full disclosure, my wife's a patient at Cancer Treatment Center. So the first thing I did when I became mayor was to talk to Kevin Tulipana, who is actually the CEO of the place. And because I'm a big proponent, I do not want the Cancer Treatment Center to be impacted negatively in any of this. And I asked him specifically, will any of these projects that's going on, and asked him to talk to the owner, impact your ability to move forward with any of your expansions? And the answer was no. Okay? So they weren't opposed to any of it because they felt what they had from land standpoint and what they were going to do, because they looked to expand, they could do it with this project, just so that everybody knows that. The 18-month deal came about because there is something I can't talk about that has to do with economic development that they're working on right next to that place that needs that extra land. And the deal was to get more time to do that negotiation. And they didn't even want to do that. They wanted it all to be, what do you call it, residential or apartments. So if the council as a whole thinks that maybe that's an issue to get over the hump, maybe it may be best to table it at this point, go back and provide some direction on maybe either tweaking that or some of the design guidelines to make sure that it gets some of the concerns that are up here as far as that goes. But that's the reason for the 18 months, and that's the reason that Cancer Treatment Center, I would imagine that commercial was set aside for them. But I was directly told from him that it will not impact their ability to move forward. And they expect to expand. So just so everybody knows that this is not hindering the Cancer Treatment Centers. Now, if you want something else there, that's so be it, but it's not hindering them. Okay? Just so that you know that. All right, so with that, I guess, do we need, talk to the attorney, do we need a motion if we want to table at this point to provide some direction to them to see if we can come back and tweak it a little bit?
Mayor, if I could, Tom would like to talk. He's the property owner.
Okay.
Mayor, members of the council, for the record, my name's Tom Blake, 1924 East San Miguel in Phoenix. One, appreciate fully the comments, the work of the staff. You know, it's been a long process. I appreciate your honesty, and I'd like to give you the respect of, you know, kind of the same from us. You know, the comments that you're talking about on the design stuff and some of those things, you guys are going to have multiple bites at the apple. You know, with the site plan, this is just zoning. With site plans, with, you know, the plats and the improvement plans that will be coming through. We have every intention of doing a first-class, you know, mixed-use master plan, period. It's been a long time coming because the family that owned the treatment center and the surrounding land, as you all know, has wanted exactly what all of you are talking about. Wouldn't it be great to have this complex out there? For, you know, they were on the board members up until they sold City of Hope with the Cancer Treatment Center. What can we do? What can we get in here? What kind of trophy, you know, area, synergies, all the good stuff that works. It just hasn't come. When we say we've been working on it for 15 years, of course not nonstop. There's been cycles. There's going to be more cycles. If we tabled it today, we're not saying you can't get something in here in the next 15 years, but it'd be piecemeal. The likelihood that you're going to get somebody to come in here and develop this all at once and do what you're talking about and not risk doing 5 acres here and then it looks like a checkerboard at the end of the day. What we're trying to do is a true master plan that makes sense, that has all these uses. Residential has to be a component of that from our standpoint if we're going to do anything with it, okay? We're talking about, you know, putting in improvement plans soon into the city on the Litchfield, the test drive, Celebrate Life Away the Park. We're not going to move forward with that stuff. We can't if it's not going to have some component that we know at least makes the most sense. You know, as the mayor mentioned, we've met with the treatment center. I appreciate all the comments on the cancer. Dr. Tulipana did not have those concerns. He thought this, again, the park would be useful. Again, whether it's broken apart, the trails they could use, all those things. But at the end of the day, we're really talking about, do we want to do something nice in the near future that's got these uses? Or do we want to, you know, look at what's been out there for a long period of time, which is not, you know, that's just the reality, I think. It hasn't been just us sitting on this thing. The city of Goodyear, which has a top-notch economic development team and has for years, again, we've had multiple meetings with them. We haven't seen it. Again, Jim Grogan's not here. His flight got delayed, but he said over and over in the meetings I've been at, hey guys, bring us somebody. We'd love to talk to somebody. You know, we haven't had offers to buy the entire project, somebody with a vision. So what we're talking about is selling individual pads to first-rate apartment apartment developers, the commercial folks, the hotels, office, which we still have 15 to 24 acres in there. Candidly, you still have a bunch of land that hasn't been in west along the freeway between Bullard and the hospital. You know, that's not going to be housing. That's going to be whatever you guys are going to want it to be. So again, just in completely candid, you know, we've worked on this thing for a couple years. The family's owned it for 15. You know, we were hoping for, if we were going to get some of this feedback, again, to be totally honest, we would have hoped it was at that executive session in August. And, you know, we were on the agenda. You guys canceled it. We left. We heard one comment, go talk to the hospital. We did, got them to give us their support. And the rest of this, you know, it wouldn't have made much of a difference. We're not going to submit something that doesn't have the residential on it because we don't want to set anybody up for failure. So I appreciate very much again, the work of everybody and the willingness to let me talk. It's just, I want to make sure we're all kind of on the same page. Thank you very much.
Do you want to close?
I was going to make
hear
a
from the attorney.
amendment motion.
Oh, well-
Amended motion, but
Well, wait a minute, he's got an amended motion that he wants to put on there. Before he does that, let me hear from the attorney.
Yeah, I think you'd asked a question earlier about procedurally how to continue,
Right.
to move on. If you want to postpone it for a later date, you can just make a motion to continue. Council approves that, we'll move it off to a later date. Staff will take the comments that council has received this evening and go work with the applicant and bring it back at a later date. There's certainly amendments that could be made. Just remember that, this is a jurisdictional rezoning, so if anything significant, we probably need to go back through the process anyway if we're going to make large-scale changes to the land use plans to make sure that it went through the public process. If we wanted to make a change as far as that hybrid period, I think that probably is fair game tonight through an amendment. But those are kind of the options as I see them. But if you want to make a motion to continue, that's probably the easiest, to let staff work through the options with the applicant.
Let me ask you that. If some of it is to do with the actual facades or the look-see of the actual,
I think that's more difficult because it's a PAD, and those concepts are contained in that PAD booklet. So I think that's hard to kind of do on the fly at a council meeting. So if you're going to look at the facades and the design standards, I'd probably recommend that it be continued and staff have the opportunity to draft something to present to council.
so if Councilmember Hamptons makes a motion, then that's probably not going to resolve the issue from what I'm gathering, from what I'm hearing from everybody else as far as the facade. So with that being the case, it probably makes more sense to get a motion, unless I'm hearing anything different from anybody on here, a motion to just what? To table it, and we'll run another date so they can go back and give that? Because it doesn't sound like to me that it's here, what you've got to do. Does that make sense? Am I getting nods of yes from everybody?
I got a potential mixed solution, so.
Go ahead, I'm listening. I'm
Okay,
listening.
so I'm okay with an amendment that will approve the commercial portion, so we can get the additional height for a potential user. I'd be okay getting rid of the 18-month and making it office commercial, but then the rest of it being at a later date. Would be
Well, you might as well kill all that at the same time, though.
would be my.
No, no sense, no,
Well, and why I bring that up is in case our economic development department needs and gets something sooner than 18 months, so that we have the added height. That's the only thing we're adding to that particular C parcel. So I'm not sure how long this is going to be tabled for. I'd hate for someone to come and we don't have the height. We have to come and do another height. I want it ready to go, I guess, if that makes sense. So that's my potential thought right now.
I don't know, let me ask the attorney. I mean, that's like a partial fix, but we still got to come back again.
Got to come back.
Yeah, I think my recommendation would be that you postpone it to a different date and taking those elements into consideration and bring back a totality of the PAD. So I think piecemealing it gets a little difficult.
I think to your part, though, Councilmember Hampton, is that if something does come, I think we can move quick enough, because one of it's already commercial, right?
It is.
It is already set for commercial, so,
Just trying to knock out the height
Yeah.
requests, so, but yeah.
It would have to come back before us anyway.
yeah. So, am I getting some consensus from everybody around here?
Well, Mayor, I think you need a formal
Yeah,
motion, so I'd
I
like to
can-
make a motion to continue the public hearing or table this item until staff and the applicant work out any necessary changes that they've gleaned from tonight and bring it back to council at a date that they choose.
All right, we got a motion, we got a second? What, hold on. Okay, I see the motion, I see a second. Okay, we're good. Everybody all right? Now we can open up for vote? All in favor? Aye? So we're directing staff to go back, do some tweaks, and then bring it back. Hopefully, not too long. You can come up with something, okay? Thank you. All right, let's see where we're at. All right. Next public hearing item is to consider the annexation of land on the southwest corner of West Lower Buckeye and Citrus Road. Open the public hearing.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Steve Creccia, Planning Manager. I do have a, can you hear me okay?
Yep, everything's
Okay,
go.
good. It sounds strange from here. But have an annexation for you tonight. It's one you've seen twice before. And it's at the southwest corner of Lower Buckeye and Citrus Road, adjacent to a development known as Citrus Park. It's about 160 acres, rezoned in 21. It's single family. You've got a little mix of conventional and court home type development, a little over 600 residences there. This is an annexation, a remnant piece. It's small. It's about 3287 square feet. It's needed for right-of-way. And this is where we're located, right here, Citrus, Lower Buckeye, the Citrus Park residential development. And also you have residential surrounding it with Pradera, La Jolla Vista, El Cedro, and Las Brisas. And so that little sliver is right here at the intersection. And as we zoom in a little bit more, here's that intersection. And here's just this little sliver piece that was not annexed in the past, so we have this county piece right here. It's about 350 feet long, about 7 feet wide. And this is just looking at this piece here. They're starting some roadway improvements, and that piece just kind of runs right here. And again, this is just more of a technical look at it. Again, it's a long linear piece that the city needs to complete roadway improvements for this area. And so in looking at this annexation request, it does within our city's municipal planning area. It meets the state's criteria for adjacency. It will permit us to continue to accept this right-of-way once it comes into the city, and then to complete roadway improvements. And so back in November, council gave us the authorization to move forward with this annexation. And given that authorization, we started the annexation process. That was a public hearing just last month in December. That was the first public hearing. That was where council would just gather any public input. And then tonight's hearing is actually the consideration of the annexation. So this is the second required public hearing. Should it pass through tonight, then staff will then continue the annexation process and close it out for this piece. And so tonight's request is that council consider this annexation and approve it as noted in the ordinance attached to the staff report. With that, Mayor, that concludes my presentation. Available for any questions.
Applicant here would like to speak on it? Don't have to? No?
I think we are the applicant.
Yeah.
It's us.
Any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
All right, with that, let's close the public hearing. Go ahead and read the ordinance, please.
Adopt ordinance number 2022-1568, an ordinance of the mayor and council of the city of Goodyear, Maricopa County, Arizona, extending and increasing the corporate limits of the city of Goodyear, Maricopa County, state of Arizona pursuant to the provisions of Title IX, Chapter 4, Article 7, Arizona Revised Statutes and amendments thereto by annexing approximately 3,287 square feet of land generally located at the southwest corner of Lower Buckeye Road and Citrus Road, which is contiguous to and surrounded by the existing city limits of the city of Goodyear, and providing a city zoning designation of AU agricultural urban, providing directions and an effective date.
Let's see, can we get a motion and a second? We've got a motion and a second. Open for council discussion. I got Councilmember Campbell at first.
Yes. Steve, refresh my memory. Why was that little section not annexed to begin with, or part of the deal? How did we end up with this little strip of something? What happened?
Mayor, council members, that was a mystery. So that was.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
It was a while ago. It has a county roadway easement over it, so it was always intended for right-of-way, roadway use for, Citrus and Lower Buckeye. Why it was not exactly included, back in the day when it initially was annexed, I did not find any.
And we found it when the Citrus Park was going to be developed, and we realized that we didn't own a part of that land.
Correct. Between the city teams and the applicant's team looking at it, yes, they were like, oh, yes, we have a remnant we need to clean up.
Okay. Now, just clarify this for me. It says that when the park is developed, the property owner, and that's the people that own Citrus Park, will dedicate a right-of-way needed for a half-street improvement. Who's going to build that half-street improvement? Us or him? Them?
Mayor, council members, that is Phase 3 of Citrus Park. So they
Okay.
have improvement plans and final plats in for this. So they're designing the road now.
Oh, okay.
They'll complete the half-street improvements as normal developers do for residential development like
I
this.
just hate to approve anything for half a street anymore, because then it's 35 years till we do build the other half of the street. You know? So, thank you.
Anything else? Any other discussion? All right, with that, can you open up the vote? Passes 7-0. Thank you. The next public hearing item is consider a rezoning of Urban District 10. Open public hearing. You're up again, Steve.
Thank you, Mayor. This next item is a rezoning. It is just west of the previous public hearing item. It's about 44 acres located here just east of Bullard, north of Celebrate Life Way here. So Van Buren and Bullard. Cancer treatment right here. And so a little bit of history into the zoning for this overall area. So 2007, we had Airport Gateway at Goodyear, and that was about 212 acres. And that's this outline here. It included cancer treatment, a little sliver down here wrapped around all the way down to Van Buren, and then Bullard. So this 212 acres. So of that 212 acres, we had 25 acres for cancer treatment that was zoned final PAD, so Cancer Treatment Center developed, this has final zoning. The rest, the remainder, about 187 acres, just has preliminary PAD zoning. So no entitlement, just basically a land plan of what could be done here. This is pretty much regional retail here, some business park here just north of the hospital. The subject piece here, this was also business park. Moving south, this is also business park, yet a retail corner right here. So Urban Logistics, they're looking at just this piece right here, 44 acres. And this is, again, this has got a business park use to it currently in the preliminary PAD. That's what they intended when they eventually came into final zone, that this would be a business park. And so the request tonight is to final PAD zone this property. So Urban District 10 is the name of the PAD. And their intent is to develop a commerce park, commercial uses type flex industrial type uses. All of those uses established in the PAD. Development standards will be based off commercial, so they'll follow the C2 development standard. So like 56 high buildings, that's the max height. They'll also be subject, though, because they are proposing some industrial, light industrial type uses, screening standards for outdoor areas, truck courts, accessory type equipment in the back. Those would follow all of our industrial zoning district standards, which are more strict. Also, they are proposing to landscape Bullard Avenue, following the theme that Bullard Avenue has south of Van Buren. They would do that here. They've committed to do that. So they'll plan for the 50-foot wide buffer with the enhanced design. And so this, at this time, we aren't just looking at zoning, so we're not looking at any type of site plan or anything like that. They did, the applicant did include rendering of what they could do, and it does show 5 kind of flex industrial commercial buildings, all storefronts facing the boundary, truck courts, loading areas internalized in the rears. They designed these type of wing walls to, again, further hide views into the storage areas. But again, everything facing a roadway or a boundary will be storefront. And in the middle, they do plan, this open space area has been included in the final PAD and stipulated about 2.5 acres. We'll go in a little more detail in a little bit, but this will be an open space central amenity planned with this development. And that park will include about 2.5 acres. You'll have 4 quadrants that will contain shade trees, benches, artificial turf, a trail walking through here that'll connect to other sidewalks and pedestrian ways within the center. And this is a rendering of what a potential building could look like. They're looking at metal elements, changes in materials, glass storefronts, shading elements for the entrances. They do have a set of design guidelines in the PAD, and they talk about some of these design elements of multiple use of colors, accent colors, and materials. And so, as this is a request for rezoning, staff did need to follow our citizen review and public hearing process. That included notices mailed to surrounding owners, legal advertisements, posting of the property. This is incorrect. No opposition to date as of when this presentation was made. Since that time, I know council has received several inquiries in opposition to this rezoning. From a staff evaluation point, we have looked at this rezoning in terms of the conformance with the general plan, with our zoning ordinance, design guidelines, and engineering standards. We do find that it meets those evaluation criteria. On January 11th, this item was taken to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and the commission did vote 6-0 to recommend approval to the City Council. With that, Mayor, that concludes my presentation. Available for questions. The applicant is also here, available for questions. They have a presentation as well if needed.
Would the applicant like to present or like to talk? Come on up.
Yeah, I brought some slides tonight. For the record, my name's Shane Alleman with Tiffany and Bosco, 2525 East Camelback Road, Phoenix 85016. We're pleased to be here tonight. It's been a long time working with various departments of staff, as well as the Cancer Treatment Center as well, to bring the proposed project that we have before you. So I do have some slides that I would like to go through to kind of give some context. And I know we've talked a lot about the CTCA area and the proposed uses and the history, so I won't touch on those very much. But if we could go to the next slide, I do have with me tonight Jason Nunley and Mike Gilbert with Urban Logistics Realty. And so just to give a little introduction, they exclusively focus on urban development throughout the Southwest United States. They're developing or have developed 6.8 million square feet of multi-building neighborhood service center focusing on corporate business and employment campus uses. So that's what we've brought to you tonight. One of the things that ULR really prides themselves on is whenever they go into an area within any city, it's looking around at the context and looking around to see what is there to make sure that the proposed use and the layout that they have is fitting within the context of what's going on around. So if we go to the next slide, I know we all know this, but right next to us to the east is CTCA. So it was very important, not only with working with city staff, but having that discussion because they were going to be our nearest and closest neighbor. And so it was very important with any proposed use or layout that we did that we discussed it with them, which we did. They provided a support letter, which I believe might be in your packet. But specifically, they did address urban logistics layout and said that they had no issues with the proposed plan. We did give them our use list to propose what uses that we were having within there, and they signed off on those, had no issues whatsoever. And in fact, we've had several other discussions with CTCA in opportunities to synergize with potential medical research users or medical users that could fit very well into the layout and the proposed project that we have. So we're really excited about those continued discussions with CTCA and moving forward with them, and hopefully we can be able to utilize uses that will be supportive of their efforts and what they have going on in the area. If we go to the next slide, it kind of shows a closer up vision. You can see on Celebrate Life Way, it has been developed and improved along there, as well as 143rd and Bullard. As Steve mentioned, we do have some enhanced Bullard standards that we do have to comply with, which I'll show you here in a little bit. But basically, the application before you is for a business commerce park themed type development that accommodates a lot of different employment, commercial, and office type users that could go here. So it's not really your standard industrial warehouse project. It's more of a commerce park type of user that brings a different kind of user to the project. We are utilizing the C2 development standards, so you get some more enhanced architectural as well as aesthetic landscaping standards. We've added to that with the Oasis Park, which I'll show you here in a little bit. But we feel like this is a prime location, working with CTCA as well as being right by the freeway and Bullard Avenue, and being able to bring a great project that enhances not only aesthetically, but in so many ways to synergize with the area around us. So I know it's already been mentioned on the next slide. As you know, we are a business commerce park land use, and in fact, the preliminary, if you can go to the next slide, shows the preliminary airport gateway PAD. And I think this is really important because this started the vision for what was going to happen, or what CTCA wanted to see happen in this area. And you can see on our property that we were a business park parcel. So from the preliminary PAD, the business park parcel was described as including offices and flex office spaces that will allow light manufacturing, warehousing, and other typical commerce park uses. So we knew we weren't going to be able to do a standard industrial, but we had to work within those confines and with the city to be able to bring this commerce park office type themed use, which we believe that we've done. They had a list of allowed uses. You can see it's kind of small up at the top right of the slide. And we built off of those. You can see some of those in their professional medical office buildings, light manufacturing, assembly, scientific research laboratories, and different things. And so we've utilized those uses and kind of built off of that to have our own use list within UD10 PAD, including excluding many of the noxious uses that wouldn't be appropriate in this area, as well as next to CTCA. And that was very important as we talked to CTCA to make sure we excluded uses that weren't going to be noxious or a problem for what they were doing there. So if we go to the next slide, I know you've seen this layout here of the site. So it really demonstrates a state-of-the-art master plan business office park that you can see here, really envisioning more neighborhood type uses, businesses, employment uses in that more campus type setting, rather than just a stark, big warehouse building development. Some of the users that ULR goes after, it's really a distinctive class of development, which they foster a mixture of office spaces, research, medical, showroom areas, with a storage and warehousing component. So you could imagine there's users, maybe a smaller business that's looking for a little area to have office up front, or have a showroom, or have something where they can wow their customers, but also need a little bit of storage or maybe some areas in the back. So it's really set up to not just be a straight just distribution warehouse center, but more of that commerce office park layout. As you do see from the aerial view, up top, you can see the truck courts. But if you were on the ground and you saw that from the ground, you wouldn't be able to see those. We worked with staff to make sure it's not only stipulated, but also shown that all of these areas will be screened so that all you see is the building. So it really focuses on that campus business layout part of the area. One of the things that we're really excited, of course, is in the center of all of this. We call it the Oasis Park. And this is a component that ULR likes to add to their projects because it really makes it a different and a distinct development. allows for a gathering area for the employees, those coming to the site. And there's lots of different things that you can do to it. And we've just shown you kind of what we're showing you and stipulating the 2.5 acres of the site. But there's a lot of exciting things that ULR can do to make this a more attractive place for employees and employers that are coming to the site. If we go to the next slide, you can see the connectivity. This was a very important aspect as we worked with staff in making sure that it was integrated with the open space and all of the areas, so that not only being able to relax in the center areas, but if they have a break, if they want to walk around and have connectivity to all of the areas, that's available too. So we worked on having a connective trail system, primary and secondary trails, throughout the project. And so we're really excited about that being a important component to all of this. If we go to the next slide, this is some of the concept inspiration that will be part of the landscaping and also bleed into the architecture and the overall feel and look of the area. So I've just included some of these slides just so you can get a feel for what ULR tries to accomplish with their developments. You can see the next slide as well shows some of that concept inspiration. Really looking to the environment and to the place that they're at and being able to add those architectural and aesthetic components, landscaping components that really enhance the space and make it not just this stark, warehouse, but really a commerce office park layout, really conducive to the employers and employees that are on the site. Of course, the next slide, I think you've all seen this. I think what's important to note is we worked really closely with staff. We started with a short list of development standards that could be part of the PAD. We ended up with 17. So we have codified as part of the PAD zoning 17 design standards that address the colors, the materials, all of those different aspects of the buildings that will be part of the PAD, so that when we get to the next step of the site plan design review, those will be required, those different elements that we presented and showed to the city. So we're excited to get into those next application processes and bring really an exciting project to the area. So with that, we are excited to have ULR come. This will be their first development in Arizona, but they have a lot of experience behind them, and they're really excited to have this be their flagship project. And they're excited that they've been able to work with the city, work with CTCA, and know that they're going to be a great neighbor to all of that and set kind of a precedent for what's going to happen to the north and the south of us for the future developments that come in. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, and we're excited to move forward.
Thank you. At this time, any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Anybody in the audience like to speak? With that, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and ask the city clerk to read resolution number 2023-2285 by title only.
Adopt resolution number 2023-2285, declaring as public records of certain documents incorporated by reference in ordinance number 2023-1569 related to the rezoning of urban district 10.
Will the council please enter a motion and a second to approve the resolution? I've got a motion and a second that I see on the screen there. Open up for council discussion. I see number one, Councilmember Gillis.
Can you tell me, do you have any idea of tenants at this point?
Yeah, I'll have Jason with ULR address that question.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Jason Nunley, 2801 East Camelback. Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. I'm very blessed to be here. It's a great question. Been asked it a lot. And the honest answer is no. We build these projects speculatively. We build them, but with a high confidence level in the kind of tenants and businesses that we attract, because we've done 50 plus of these buildings, same size. We specialize in exactly what Shane mentioned, multi-building, multi-tenant business parks. And because of the size, because of the orientation, because of the way that the project is designed, it really has a bent towards higher end, higher finish users. So we've done a lot of work in the past with healthcare companies like E4D, that's a dental technology company that has a research and development portion to it, a technology training portion of it, and a light manufacturing portion of it. With Safe Smile, similar, so we've done a bunch of medical type related uses. There are, goodness, the kinds of businesses that come in and growing, thriving communities need. Sushi. We've got sushi in our business parks that comes in and then goes out to all the sushi restaurants. Pinpoint marketing, so marketing firms that are in the area. R&D and training, big user for us. Lexus, Toyota, HelloFresh, another food type user. It's a difficult question to answer succinctly, so pardon my rambling. I just wanted to give you a little flavor.
That's okay. That gives me an idea, though, of what you're thinking of. How big is this building, actually, the total square footage of this building?
Cumulatively, it's 650-ish thousand square foot.
So it's a pretty good-sized building.
No, that's between all 5 buildings
Right.
combined. Yes, ma'am.
So it's pretty good size.
And
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember, we do have a stipulation that requires us to have at least 4 buildings, so it's not like we could come in and just build one big,
Right.
large. So what you see is what you get.
Right. Okay, so let me just tell you exactly where I'm at on this. I'm obviously the newly elected up here. I know what I have told my constituents before I was elected. I know that warehouses, because even though it's smaller, and I like what I see, I like what you're offering. I think it's really beautiful. I don't think that's the place for it. The reason being is that I have been told by some people in this room, in fact, that we do warehouses on the outskirting areas of the city to where nothing else is being built. And that has sufficed people in the city because they're tired of warehouses and they're tired of apartments. And you kind of understand that. They do not want warehouses, big or small, in the city. And they've made that very, very clear. And I had to come and ask, obviously I didn't know, so I had to come and ask for that and why we do what we do. And I have told them that I will abide by that because, that's what we told them. And I think there are some things, because I might not always agree with the apartment things, but I think we can agree to disagree, but I'm going to hold firm on this for my constituents because I am newly elected. And that is something that's really important to them, is to have no warehouses in the city areas. So to me, looking at that right from off the I-10, and I did walk it the other day, I walked the property, so I know exactly where you're going to do it. In seeing these slides, I really, really like what you have to offer, but I would like to see it somewhere else. And so I would be a hard no on that, I'm sorry.
Councilmember Stipp?
You
Oops,
appreciate
go ahead.
that. Real quick, if I can make a comment. Yeah, I appreciate that. And we did hear that from the beginning, Councilmember, and that's one of the things that we went back and forth, lots of discussions with the city. And that's why we presented the project the way that we have. Typically, when people say warehouse or industrial warehouses, it is a bigger type of big box, big building that's sitting on there that really is only catering to distribution warehouse trucks coming in and out all day. You don't screen your docks. You have it has to be set up a very certain way where it's just docks on one side and just warehouse on the other. And so we were very careful with that and with the discussions, and we feel like we aren't presenting an industrial warehouse. We feel like it's more of a commerce park layout. And the city of Phoenix, to mention others, and there's others, they've noticed that, hey, we just don't want the big boxes, and so we want something different that is more conducive to these types of different users that we bring to it. Because typically an industrial warehouse is, you have 1 or 2 big users that come in. And really the layout for this is more of that commerce park. So it allows for those smaller businesses that need a little bit of warehouse space. There's businesses that need that. I grew up with my dad being a contractor, and he had a very successful business, and he had to have a space where he could bring clients in and show off what he was doing, but he also had a little space in the back to be able to store those components. So I would just challenge it just a little bit to kind of look at it just a little bit differently than just industrial warehouses, which we do hear from your constituents of not wanting. And this being just something different. It's not really a industrial warehouse. It's more towards sliding towards, if you want to have a sliding scale of office park type of layout. And that's really what we've tried to work with staff to bring, and we feel like it's different than, you know, what we hear from your constituents.
It is different, there's no question. And my grandfather was a builder, so I do understand where you're coming from. And like I said, I love what I saw. I just don't love where it is. And I can tell you, still has the roll-up doors in the back, and it still has the trucks coming in and out. It's going to be a warehouse to them. Trust me when I tell you this. So that's a warehouse. Is a
Yeah, we
warehouse.
appreciate that.
But I do like what I saw, just somewhere else.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Thank you.
Councilmember Stipp?
Thanks. Steve, do you have in your presentation the satellite view of that area? I think you did. I hate to call it satellite, but
This one?
the aerial. Thanks. Yeah, that one. No, actually go back. That one, that'll be sufficient. So, I'm going to do the old, with all due respect to my new council member partner here.
Go ahead. I'll do it back.
I'm not sure where we only put these kinds of uses on the outskirts, because if you look at this map alone, directly across the street from this site is a manufacturing facility, Southwest Specialty Foods, where the cursor is right now. Those 6 buildings are a different classification of this very product. Light industrial, roll-up door in the back, storefront in the front. We've got a lot of small mom and pop shops in there, auto repairs. My son's lacrosse coach had a lacrosse training facility in there at one point in time. And then across the street and up is the Schneider's, what used to be Schneider's, now Campbell's snack food manufacturing. Come down to Van Buren and go east, and there's the Baker Development Building in there, plus and then right where Steve's cursor is, right north of there, is another small commerce park, roll-up doors in the back, storefront in the front there, and there's a plumbing supply place in there, for example, that's got a distribution, quote-unquote, out the back door, but it's a retail front in the front there. And I can go on and on and on, but that's just right on this map. So I don't know that I would agree with the assessment. They only go on the outskirts.
Well,
So
that's what
just-
I've been told.
Yeah, and I don't know again, we don't know where the information's coming from, but, I mean, just looking at this one map, just to kind of set the, quote-unquote, set the record straight. So, Steve, thanks for putting that up. The difference between the Commerce Center concept and warehouses, so if you go to the site plan, which I think is toward the end, this one, there does not appear, and I'm going to look at the urban logistics folks or whoever, there does not appear to be room to get a semi to back into that area. Is that, somebody answer that for me?
I'm sorry, which area?
You're not going to cross-dock trucks in any of those between buildings.
Yes, it can.
No, he's going to.
You're going to cross-dock in there?
Oh, cross-dock, no, I'm sorry, I misunderstood the question. But yes, for the example, like the sushi supplier, they will have a truck come in, unload, and then put it into box trucks or something like that and take it out to serve the community.
So, but it's not a FedEx semi-in, unload, reload a semi out. This is a
the opposite
truly a
of that.
commercial commerce situation, correct?
Yes, sir, that's
The way I
correct.
understood that. We had the military contractor that I worked for, our first office building down in Florida was in one of these. Offices in the front, we had a small warehouse in the back that we could put a truck in, store materials at grade, not at grade. I mean, they've moved around a couple times based on the materials that we needed. And we currently, as a city, we don't have much of this left. And we have a lot of high-end technological facilities, the robotics facility, all the data centers, they need stuff. It's all brand new, so nothing's broken, but when that stuff starts to break down, we're gonna want to have those suppliers and repair companies here in the city. This is the kind of place that they would go to, based on, you know, I think what we all hopefully commonly know as this commerce thing. So does this make the most amount of sense? I think given where, right down Bullard, where all of those facilities are, it tends to make some sense. Let's put this commerce by where they will go and service those machines and service those data center components. So, you know, kind of talk about what makes the most amount of sense and where. I really look at this and wonder, it may be a higher end for mom and pop, but if mom and pop have been really successful and they want to move from across the street to this, then mom and pop are doing really well. And it doesn't have to be 100,000 square feet. What's the smallest?
Well, we can go down to 10,000 square feet or less.
Yeah, so you can go
And-
small,
and
or you
do
can go the whole,
frequently.
or the whole thing. So if I've been wildly successful, I can take 50,000 square feet or 60,000. But if I'm just starting out and I need 10, I can get 10. Is that how this flex works?
And the goal is to grow along with our partners, along with our tenants. So they may start in 10,000 square foot, but as we come alongside them, help them be successful, the hope is that they stay here, they stay in the city of Goodyear as they continue to grow and expand.
So for us to look at this as like everybody else does, it's only another industrial park, perhaps to use Councilmember Hampton's words, that may be short-sighted. That we have an opportunity to do something that people can grow into, or we can get some commerce closer. So I just kind of throw that out there, that I've said it 1,000 times out in public. Every one of these warehouse buildings is not a warehouse. Some of it is a cross-dock, some of it is high-end employment center. It's manufacturing. I mean, they can be anything that we want them to be, or that the user wants them to be. That whole corridor, I think from what we originally had envisioned 20-some years ago, which was going to be the Price Road corridor of the West Valley, the minute that we started putting data centers down that street, that changed that entirely. So let's change with the time, and let's move forward. Somebody's made reference to the letter from CTCA, and I think for Vicky's standpoint, if we have that available, can we?
I've seen it.
You've seen it?
I've seen it.
Okay. So I think initially our concern was, and it was referenced earlier, back in August, we had a meeting and then we canceled it and whatnot. That was as a result of a concern about cutting CTCA off. And now you guys have had conversations with them, is that correct? Yep. So.
We have, and if I could just add on that, just for the record, I absolutely understand all your concerns. It's not the first time that we've heard this. For the record, when we came to the city and said, hey, we've got this idea for this vacant lot, first thing we heard was, not no, but heck no. We don't want industrial. We said, I understand. I think we're different. Would you give us an opportunity to sit down and just talk, have a dialogue with city staff, what it is that we're trying to do? The Oasis Park was not an add-on from the city. That's not something that staff came to us and said, hey, you should consider doing this. It's candidly, it's not something that we put on the plan to try to entice you to an aye vote. We're doing a 5-acre park right now on another project today that we're investing about $1.5 million into a park. It doesn't make financial sense except to say what we're trying to do is different. We're human-centric in our business. We're human-centric in what we're trying to create. It is an evolution of the product type that has a very negative stigma, and a well-earned negative stigma. We're not that. We rage against it. We war against it, which is why we're trying to swing the pendulum so far the other way to say, how do we incorporate public art into a business center, into a commerce center, to try to attract the kind of businesses that cities want to have there. But more than that, I get preachy here because we're super passionate about it. It is our fingerprints, it is our DNA on these. So it's every little minute detail that we try to think through with the goal of our mission to enrich the lives of others. There's gonna be a single mom that works in this place. She's gonna be there as much time as she's at home. How do we make her work environment a little bit better? It's not something that you can quantify. It's not something that you can measure. And it's just who we want to be at the end of the day.
I don't have any other questions or statements. I think based on everything we've already done in this particular area and everywhere else, this is definitely a project worth supporting.
All right, we got Councilmember Campbell up next.
Okay, my question is, where have you developed before that we can go online and see your product?
Most of our product, I think, is online. Goodness, I'd have to check the website.
Well, give me the state or
Texas,
whereabouts?
Dallas and Houston.
Dallas and Houston, okay.
That's her place.
Okay. I'm from Texas, so I'll check you out.
Trust me, she'll probably go there.
The projects are bigger.
Yes, yes.
I know. So is there any thought that you would be renting out office space? I know that there is not an availability of a lot of office space. People don't want to own the building. They only want to rent an office, whether they're an attorney or whatever they do. So do you do that sort of thing?
So to be clear, we're not a WeWork. We're not a flex. You can't come in and just lease one office.
So you got to do the whole building?
But we do very frequently have users that go in that don't have any warehousing component. They finish out the entire space as office. There's marketing firms that come in and they like the high ceilings and they like it open because it's creative.
So basically, this is just going to be warehousing somehow, but not necessarily a big distribution, but just warehouses.
No, ma'am, and I could go into a thesis that would bore everybody to death as to
don't
why
bother.
this doesn't work for big distribution or warehousing, but it's kind of like the easiest thing I think that we can equate it to oftentimes is retail because it's a product type that people understand. There's giant mega malls, and that's retail, right? In the truest form of the word, that's retail. But then there's also the neighborhood strip center that has the dry cleaner and the Starbucks in it and the doctor's office in it. And that's also retail. But they're very, very different, and one doesn't serve the same users. We're the strip retail center in your neighborhood.
Okay, I'm done. I'm done. Thank you.
All right,
That's it.
Councilmember Loretano?
Okay, I think we're kind of getting hung up on industrial. We are. And I think that's, I think we need to have a little kind of like, if I can help vision this, what I'm understanding you're saying is that this is not going to be a cross-stock. This is not going to be a FedEx or a UPS or a giant warehouse they're just going to distribute from. Is that a fair statement?
It's 100% correct.
My understanding from what I've heard and what I've looked at, it's like, I think if we think of Scottsdale Air Park, where there's a lot of businesses like this. My mom growing up, she used to work for bookkeeping for a gift store. And same thing, they had the office in the front, and these stores were in all the malls in Scottsdale. And their product, when they came in to go to the stores, was in the back. So the front was a full-on office, and then the back was where you would just have the product that would go out to your stores. So when Bill and I are done with our council, we can open Bill and Cherry's Great Honey Farm, and we can have our product.
Yeah, that's kind of scary. But
We can have our product in the back to have our customers, but we can meet with customers or people in the front. Is that a good observation?
If you ever want a job helping explain what we do, please let me know. You did it better than I did.
So how I see this is, and to let people know, I had a friend that wanted to open a School of Rock. Couldn't find this type of location in Goodyear because we don't have it. And that's where they have kids in, and the Alice Cooper school thing and everything. And it's like, oh, why didn't you come to Goodyear? Well, I tried, I couldn't find what I was looking for here. So I think we need to tell our citizens that this is not industrial per se, and I don't think we have a business park designation in our zoning type thing, so it all goes under light industrial or industrial. I'm looking at Christopher like commercial, yeah. Yeah, so it's kind of like a hybrid that we really don't have a place to put it, so people hear industrial and they jump to warehouse. And I think we need this for the small user, and what I'm looking at is like when, I never get these initials right, TCM, TMC?
TSMC.
Yes, thank you. I knew you'd have that. They're going to be bringing a lot of smaller businesses with them, and they're going to be looking at not large industrial, but this is the type of spaces that some of those tech companies and stuff are going to be looking at, not just in North Phoenix, but throughout the valley, and we don't have that now. So I like the fact it's a high quality. Are there anything in the stipulations to let our residents know is not going to become a cross dock? Is that-
We do have a minimum of 4 buildings, so that in and of itself, I think,
Keeps
prohibits
that.
it. There are also stipulations in the view corridors that really prohibit you from doing almost anything but what's shown on that screen right now.
I think it's a needed component that we don't have in our portfolio right now, and I think it's needed for the businesses. You're not backing up against the freeway, correct?
That's correct.
So that's not taking the freeway frontage. I think that solves that problem. And I really think you're going to see the smaller to mid-sized businesses. You're not going to see Amazon come in here. You're not going to see, these large businesses. I think you're going to see small businesses that want a nice place, and probably some tech and some things like that. And I think that if you market it towards that and get that synergy, that would really help the medical and the technical and put those together. I know in Long Beach, there's several places like this, right by the airport, right by Long Beach Airport, that there are several places like this that have some of the higher tech and higher, and even kind of like what you were saying about there's soccer clinics, we've been to places in Goodyear like this where there's gymnastics. They open it up and they do the gymnastics. They got the beams and everything. We had a bouncy house in Goodyear out of a place similar to this. So I think it's a good fit, and I think it's what we need. I just think we need to help our residents understand when it says industrial, it doesn't mean giant trucks are going to be backing up 24/7. So I just think I want to work with that. So I am going to support you on this.
Thank you.
Yeah, if I may make a comment. So Councilmember Loretano, I really appreciate that. And that's exactly what we struggled with as we started this whole discussion with the city. And that's really why we have C2 standards. We're following the C2 standards, because if we wanted to do a traditional cross-dock industrial type development, we would have been coming and asking for I-1 or I-2 or something like that. But it's really more conducive to that C2. And to also answer Councilmember Campbell's question, the use list does allow for professional type office uses, so architects, marketing firms, design firms, things like that. So, that is actually absolutely a user that could come here to utilize the building for professional office uses as well.
We good? Vice Mayor, you're up.
Well, thank you for going over and over the differentiation between warehouses and what you have envisioned here, because that certainly has been the crux of the emails that we've received this week, the feedback that we're receiving. And this, somebody said, this is going to be a multi-tenant facility. And I see it as a business hub. There is another business park across the street that Councilmember Stipp referred to, and in that is a variety of businesses. There are franchises. A church got its start there. There's gym, there's medical, there's retail, dance, just a lot of small businesses. And when they have vacancies, they turn over really quickly because the fact that there is not that much space. And we also have constituents who are moving here from other parts of the country who have had very successful businesses, and they live in Goodyear and they want to have a business in Goodyear, but there is very limited space. And so I think this product, especially because it has been upscaled and will provide opportunity for our local entrepreneurs or people who are ready to move up, or maybe who have had businesses somewhere else, to come here and be able to launch a business. So I think that you have worked really hard with us to make this a good product. The park, I believe there was going to be a public art piece in there perhaps as well. Is a nice amenity. It wasn't, certainly not required, but it's nice. It makes for a bicycle ride over, or Instagram-worthy photos and things like that. And so I think you've done something with the nice storefront appearance. It's going to definitely be an asset, and I will support this.
Councilmember, let's see, next one up, Hampton?
Thank you. So originally I was supportive of this project, but then looking at the totality of the area, I had to rethink where I was going with it. I do wish that it had come after what's going to go north and south of this, but I really think it's going to set a precedent for this area near the Cancer Treatment Centers of America, to where it will lend itself to more than what this is, which is large industrial or warehouse type things. I do think this type of thing is needed, and I think it's beautiful. I think they put a lot of work into it. I just don't think here next to the Cancer Treatment Centers of America is the best spot for it. I just imagine being in the Cancer Treatment Centers of America, being in one of the rooms and listening to some of the noise or the backup trucks and things like that. Not to the level of a cross-dock facility, but still, there's going to be traffic throughout this building. So, I mean, and once again, when I look at Abrazo in that area or around there, I don't see something like this. I see other users that are north of the freeway. I feel that the south of the freeway should have just as nice of things as the north of the freeway should. And I feel that we're doing ourselves a disservice to have more industrial, especially in this particular area, which is very close to our last little strip of I-10, and also will just continue to be more of the same thing, or more of industrial, getting closer and closer to our prime I-10 frontage road facilities. And to Councilmember Gillis's point is that we did tell our residents that, and we justify it by saying that industrial, light industrial, those kind of uses go along the 303 corridor, and they go along the airport. They don't necessarily go next to one of our premier hospitals in the city that we hope to grow, especially as it's been now with the City of Hope. And I know that the city or the director there feels that this might be a good use, but it'll be interesting to see what that will look like in the future for him as well. I'm just really nervous that this is going to, with the start of this, that will turn into more of a Tolleson type area. And if we want to go and be like Tolleson, I'm sure we can get some people over here to teach us how to be more like Tolleson. But I think I'd like to see something that's a little better use for this general area over here. And then also, I guess fourth, and I know how this is going to go here, how the votes might go, but still, I had a resident that told me that their email was forwarded over to one of the attorneys for this project, and then they were told that they didn't write the letter and things like that. So I was a little disappointed that one of our council members would send that email over to another person, to the attorney. It makes it look like they're maybe working with that attorney. So, but either way, I just think this isn't the right exact place for that use. I do think it's beautiful if it does pass. I mean, it's probably the best type of small warehouse or small light industrial that can be there, but I'm going to vote no on this, so thank you.
Back to Councilmember Gillis.
Well, with all due respect, and I say that lovingly. Yeah, I'm going to get my point in, And so here's the deal. I get what Sherry said. I get what Bill said. I agree with you. I actually agree with the whole thing. I think it's beautiful. I told you that. I just would like to see it someplace else. It wasn't even 2 months ago that I was telling people what I was telling them. And I'm not going to go down looking like a liar. I'm not going to be that kind of politician. But if you were to put it someplace else, I'd be a hard yes, because I really think it's beautiful. I just don't like where it's at, and I'm going to stick with that.
Councilmember Stipp, you're good? All right, I'll close it up. The first place when it comes to this, I don't see it as a warehouse. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm missing something here. I see it as a business park. In fact, what I would love for you to do to help the Cancer Treatment Center out, and I think you had heard earlier that my wife's a patient there, so one things that they do need is some delis or things along those lines that they can walk to other than what you have there for their can. All right, so if you could put like a deli in there or something else that they can get some food prepared in there, that gives some options, that would really be nice for them, because right now they're limited, and some of them are in there in between, and I can tell you from an appointment standpoint, she can go at 8 o'clock in the morning for some blood work and not do the chemo till 1. So she's got 3 hours, she's sitting there staring at the wall. So if you could get something like that they come, even if it was a little something trinket shop to look at, to distract them from just sitting around inside in a waiting room for all that time, it would be really nice. So just some idea of what you might want to put there would be appreciated. And with that, I guess we've got everything in there. Can we, let's see, where are we at? Go ahead and vote on this, please. Passes 4-3. Thank you. With that, how about, oh, wait a minute, did I miss something here? Oh, I'm sorry. Please, well, you did the resolution, all right. Sorry. We got that done there. Can you go ahead and read the ordinance, please?
Adopt ordinance number 2023-1569, conditionally rezoning approximately 43.93 acres of property located at the northeast corner of Bullard Avenue and Celebrate Life Way to be known as Urban District 10 from the preliminary planned area development zoning district to the final planned area development zoning district, amending the zoning map of the city of Goodyear, providing for non-abridgment, providing for corrections, providing for severability, providing for an effective date, providing for penalties, and directing the city clerk to record a copy of this ordinance.
Can I get a motion and a second? I've got that on the board there. Let's see, anybody request to speak? I guess we've already gotten that out of the way. Any discussion, further discussion? With that, can you open it up for voting? Passes 4-3. All right, with that being said, we have another public hearing, but was anybody up for a break? All right, how about, what do you think, 10 minutes? 10-minute break? All right, let's break for 10 minutes, please. I know. Everybody ready to get started? We good? All right, Christian, I say the next public hearing item to consider rezoning 8.62 acres of the Ascent at Canyon Trails Development. Open the public hearing. Please introduce yourself.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, welcome. My name's Christian Williams. I'm a principal planner here with the City of Goodyear. And today I'm here with a request before you from Brian Greathouse to conduct a rezoning on a property within the city. So this property is approximately 8.62 acres, and it is located in central Goodyear within the Canyon Trails Master Plan community. It is specifically located on the southeast corner of 158th Avenue and Roosevelt Street. So that is northwest of Estrella Parkway and Van Buren Street, near Saddle Mountain Brewery and Walmart. And the property is currently today zoned planned area development with an underlying zoning of commercial. And the property is located in this red box right here. So there's Saddle Mountain, and there's Walmart, and there's the property we're talking about today. So zooming in a little closer, you can see that the project is in red right here. It is south of Canyon Trails Phase 1 residential development. It is north of Travis Park at Canyon Trails residential development. It is west of Parkway Village, again, our favorite Saddle Mountains right over here. And then you've got Walmart right up here in the Estrella Roosevelt Commercial Center. So for a little bit of zoning history on this property, in 1999, which is that map you see in the middle, this property was actually zoned townhomes. So it was PAD, and it was a 10-acre property with an underlying zoning of townhomes. Another note I'll point out is that in 2005, the Canyon Trails Town Center was rezoned. It used to be 22 acres of commercial, and that was, it was 22 acres of commercial, as well as multifamily, townhomes, courthomes, and single-family homes. That was all rezoned to 91 acres of commercial for the Canyon Trails Town Center today. As you'll recall also, back in September of 2021, 12.7 acres of that property was rezoned back to multifamily to create that mixed-use center that's being built right now. So the town center still today has 78 acres of commercial opportunity, about 300,000 square feet of commercial opportunity. A lot of that now has been announced. That's just some cool things going in there today, now that it's a mixed-use center. In 2011, this property in particular was amended in the Canyon Trails Phase 1 PAD, and that's when that property that we're talking about today went from townhomes to commercial. So many of you have asked about, how much commercial's left and available in Canyon Trails. So if you exclude the 19 acres of commercial property that ADOT has consumed for the Loop 303 and I-10, there was originally 146 acres of commercial planned in Canyon Trails. After the expansion of the town center and also the conversion of this property from townhomes to commercial, we landed on 247 acres. And now, if this rezone is approved, we would go to 166 acres of commercial, which is 20 acres more of commercial than were originally envisioned in Canyon Trails with all of the maneuvers in the zonings. So again, that's your quick zoning history, and here's where we are today. The property we're referring to is right here. So the applicant is requesting that zoning change from the current PAD with an underlying land use of commercial to neighborhood with an R1A single-family residential attached with a PAD overlay to facilitate the development of a single-family attached townhouse community. The use of the PAD overlay on this zoning is requested because the current development standards of R1A don't contemplate an alley-loaded product that faces onto a green court or and also surrounded by like a community center in the middle. So as a note, the renderings on this slide that you see and the layout you see are not final. If the zoning is approved today by council, it will go to the preliminary plat process, then the final plat process, and ultimately they'll go through the residential design review process or the site plan process, which is the administrative process of this step. But on this plan, you'll see on the right, that's a conceptual lot layout of how they would lay out this community with that central amenity. You have some elevations of some townhomes, so they're all single family, platted, but multiple attached. You've got your side view with a wraparound porch, and then this would be the alley. So I'll highlight a few of the components of the zoning. If you have any additional questions, don't hesitate to ask. So starting with the design standards, typical R1A is for garage-forward homes. This development proposes options for an alley-loaded garage with units having front doors and patio spaces facing forward. And this is why they're proposing that narrower lot, but adding additional amenities throughout the community. The site will have a clubhouse and fitness center, as well as a pool for use of all the residents, as well as a separate tot lot area. That's all contemplated in the zoning. And the developer will attempt to provide a direct connection between their development and the adjacent commercial center, which contains Saddle Mountain and the yogurt place and the frozen ice place. They're gonna try to make a connection there. They'll have to work with the developer of that commercial property to do so. The units, again, all intend to be alley loaded with the garages in the alleys and the fronts of those homes either facing a roadway or a green space. The PAD overlay calls out conditions for building diversity, accent colors, and ensuring that the development has some sense of curb appeal. Additionally, they are proposing off-street or on-street parking within this development. Specifically, in a single-family development, you are only required to have 2 covered spaces per residential building, or residential unit. This development is proposing 2.5 spaces with the assurances that a minimum of 0.5 spaces would be allocated for guests. There's restrictions in here that would ensure that you can't have one vehicle in your garage and park the second one on the extra guest spaces because you got a little lazy and filled your garage with stuff. There's provisions on that, on how a POA or an HOA would manage that. Additionally, there are protections for setbacks to the single family to the south. So this actually, I would argue, goes above and beyond our typical zoning. They contemplate that there will be a minimum of a 10-foot landscape setback adjacent to the Travis Park community to the south. Additionally, there will be no 2-story elements of homes within 15 feet of those single-family residential units, and no structures like carports or things like that within 30 feet. So again, if this were to be developed as another single-family development, you typically have maybe 10 to 15 feet of a backyard. This ensures you're gonna have no 2-story elements within 15 feet. To date, the city has not received any formal resident opposition. Planning and Zoning Commission voted affirmatively to recommend this for approval, and staff has evaluated the impacts of this proposed zoning on the greater community. With no major concerns being found, staff recommends you approve the rezone of this property from Planned Area Development Zoning District with an underlying land use of commercial to R1A single-family attached zoning with a PAD overlay titled Ascent at Canyon Trails as set forth in the zoning ordinance. And the applicant is here. They don't have a presentation, and I'm happy to answer any zoning-related questions you might have.
Where's the applicant? Do you want to make any comments at this time, or you want to wait? That's your call.
If you guys want a presentation, I'd be happy to give one. If you have questions, I'd be happy to answer them. But, yeah.
All right, let's wait and see what we get here from the city council, okay?
Okay, thank you.
And with that, is there any speaker card, anybody, any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Anyone in the audience like to speak? All right. With that, I'm going to close the public hearing. Will the city clerk please read the resolution number 2023-2282 by title only?
Adopt resolution number 2023-2282, declaring as public records of certain documents incorporated by reference in ordinance 2023-1566 related to the rezoning case for Ascent at Canyon Trails.
Looking for a motion and a second. It looks like I have it. Open for council discussion. Looks like Councilmember Campbell's up first. Go ahead.
Okay, I have a question for you, Christian, sorry. When you say alley, are you referring to the inside? Is that the alley, not the street?
No, when I'm referring to alley, so just to kind of orient you, they have internal streets that could be private streets, but they'd function more like a street. Off of those, you'll have stubs that operate like alleys.
Got
So
it.
the
Oh, I got
garages
it.
will
Okay.
face those internal alleys, and then they have a nice street that goes through it that has those nice porches and things like that facing them.
Okay, and I want to be sure that the top lot has shade coverings.
You got it.
And that's it, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Hampton?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think it's a good project. I live right over here too, and then my day job office is right over here as well. I had a question on the entrances. I see one main entrance. It looks like off 158th. Is the other one did you say it was a right in, right out, or is it a general full in and exit off of Roosevelt?
This hasn't been platted, but once we do the actual platting, we can determine that. It depends on how they orient that.
Okay,
and
and
the
then
spacing.
another question, did you mention you're gonna try to work with the development, the plaza next door to see about, you say about opening a pathway between the two there? with that
Yes,
wall?
there's actually, surprisingly, there's actually a gap in the wall right here
down
and a
there.
little drainage area. And the developer has an opportunity, if the plaza wants to work with them, to make that a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. They'll still gate that, but they want to create a path there so those residents can walk right over to the retail and support that retail there.
Okay, and I'm trying to just place it there. That looks like is that near is that dirt right there? The one I'm looking at here.
It's right.
Is that near the 2-story with the statue out front?
That is over here. So there's like a dirt lot here that's undeveloped pad. There's some parking down there. And there's like a little hidden little retention area there that they want to
Yeah.
really fix up if they have the opportunity to do that.
Okay, and will there be a gate or will it just be a normal in and out entrance there?
They would gate their development off, but their residents would then have access to go between the two projects.
Okay, no, I think that's a good idea, and I just sometimes I find people that might not always should be there in that little drainage area back there, and there's been some other things back there, so I just want to make sure that it's good for everybody. So, I think that's it. Yeah, I think it'll be it's very similar to, it reminds me of the one that's south, completely south of that.
Belvarosa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be good. Definitely a good starter type home area. So, because it's not rental, it's all owner, right? You said.
Zoning does not dictate rent or ownership, but what they will be doing is platting all these individually. That's what zoning will guarantee.
Oh, okay. I just assumed that it was single-family townhouse style, court home type-ish style.
It is, yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
I've just got a quick question for the developer or the owner. If these are sold, because one of our biggest challenges going right now is affordable housing, what do you think the starting prices of some of these might be? Any idea?
We don't have an idea at this time.
All right, I'm hoping that we can get them down at least a little bit, because right now, that's some of our biggest challenge right now is affordable housing. I know the governor's pursuing it, and I know our legislators at the state is looking at it as well. So just kind of keep that in mind as you kind of move forward. And it would be helpful to get some of the more people that can actually afford a home, so.
Understandable. Thank you.
Okay, with that, go ahead and open the voting. All in favor? Passes 7-0. Will the city clerk please read ordinance number 2023-1566 by title only?
Adopt ordinance number 2023-1566, conditionally rezoning approximately 8.62 acres of property located at the southeast corner of Roosevelt Street and 158th Avenue to be known as Ascent to Canyon Trails, amending the zoning map of the city of Goodyear, providing for non-abridgment, providing for corrections, providing for severability, providing for an effective date, providing for penalties, and directing the city clerk to record a copy of this ordinance.
Well, I already see a motion that the council, a first and a second for 2023-1566. Open for council discussion. Seeing none, go ahead and open the voting. Passes 7-0. Thank you. The next public hearing item is to consider rezoning 156 acres known as Fulton Homes from Plan Area Development to Plan Area Development Amended. Open the public hearing. Back up, Christian.
I'm still here.
All right.
All right, I'm here before you this evening with a request from Chris Webb to conduct a rezoning on a property in the city. That property is 156 acres. Property is located generally at the southeast corner of Yuma Road and Estrella Parkway. It's this upside down L shape here. And the property is currently zoned Fulton Homes at Ballpark Village, PAD. And I will go into some of the details of what that requested amendment is on the next slide. Actually, in 2 slides. Zooming in a little closer for y'all watching at home, it is just north and east of the existing Goodyear Ballpark and the city-owned property surrounding it. It is just east of Velux at Ballpark Village, which will propose a mix of residential. It is south of Ballpark Village North, which proposes multifamily and retail, as well as the Centera development. And it is just west of the city-owned Wash. All right. Property, for its context within Ballpark Village, it is this area outlined right here. So the greater Ballpark Village area, it is this property we're talking about here. All right. So the PAD proposes 3 real changes. So the developer, again, they're proposing a gated residential community that will have 4 housing types: the R50, the R52, the R35, and the lost my place. But what they are proposing is in the R45 lot. They would like to reduce the backyard setback. Currently, the backyard setback is at 20 feet. With the market changes, they're looking to introduce an additional 1-story product into this development. That is what's precipitating the change for this. They'd like to do 10-foot deep backyards on that one housing product, and that would be codified in the zoning only for single-story residential product. As a means to justify that change, they would like to add additional trail amenities that will ultimately be available to the public on the city trail. I'll show you what those look like here on the next slide. And they will also codify the minimum size of their amenity. They would codify the minimum square footage of that pool, or the surface square footage of that pool, to 7,000 square feet, with the minimum deck area of 10,000 square feet. Again, since these homes have a less likelihood of having their own private pool, they wanted to codify a minimum size for that common amenity, which would be built in the first phase, located in that north park. On this slide, you will see a rendering of that pool that's located in the north amenity. There's that 7,000 square foot pool, 10,000 square foot pool deck, and then on the city-owned property that will be developed by this developer as the Bullard Wash Trail, they intend to build 2 shaded structures with seating that will have that Ballpark Village emblem. They will also do 2 trail markers that are pretty substantial in size to introduce people to the Ballpark Village area of the trail system. To date, the city has not received any resident opposition to this case. Staff has evaluated the impacts of this proposed zoning on the greater community, and with no major concerns being found, staff recommends you approve the rezoning of the property from Fulton Homes at Ballpark Village Planned Area Development to the first amended PAD of Fulton Homes at Ballpark Village. Happy to take any questions you might have.
Is the applicant here?
Representative from the applicant is here.
Mayor, Council, Chris Webb with Rose Law Group here on behalf of Fulton Homes. I don't have a presentation for you, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, why don't you hold up? We'll see what comes your way, okay? Any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Okay. Would anybody in the audience like to speak? Come on.
Thank you, Council. Just right off the bat, I'm just curious about what the traffic would be during the baseball season with the residents that are living in that area.
Well, who?
Oh, I'm sorry, my name is Nola Isla.
Go ahead. Address, Goodyear resident?
Yes, 15630 West Westview Drive, Goodyear.
Okay, and you just want to know what the traffic would be out there?
Yes.
Who can?
I can.
Chris?
Yeah.
Okay. Chris,
So this zoning doesn't change anything about the traffic because it's not changing the density, but just for general information, this development and the pre-plat that you will see if this is approved in this meeting is that they will have a gated entrance that will exit them onto Goodyear Boulevard East, and they have a gated exit that will lead them onto Lower Buckeye Parkway, which then they could access Bullard here or Estrella Parkway here. This zoning does not change any obligations for the traffic signal improvements that they will need to make. A contribution at Wood Boulevard and Lower Buckeye, contribution at Bullard and Lower Buckeye, widening of Yuma Road to its full southern extent, which will be 3 traffic lanes eastbound, and then improving Estrella Parkway northbound to the 3 through lanes northbound, as well as the decel lanes where appropriate. They will also be modifying the intersections of Wood Boulevard and Goodyear Boulevard South.
Does that answer your question?
Well, just one of the main concerns is during, graduation season, the ballpark is being used for the ceremonies. And then for 4th of July, there's a lot of cars that park along those open areas over there. And traffic is basically chaotic, and there've been many accidents that have happened in in that area.
Let me ask the city manager, is there well, during the 4th of July, typically, there's usually, isn't police officer, or is the chief here? Go ahead.
In the other room, but absolutely, when there's large events, even spring training, there's a traffic management plan. But certainly, we can take some additional information from residents' experience to
please
see
do
if we
other-
can prove that.
Okay, please do with your experience, and then see if we can help that or mitigate that for you. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead. Now, with that, let's see, where we at? Anybody want to say anything? Close public hearing? Oh, I haven't closed it yet. Will the city clerk please read resolution number 2023-2283?
Adopt resolution number 2023-2283, declaring as public records those certain documents referred to and incorporated by reference in ordinance number 2023-1567 filed with the city clerk related to the rezoning case for Fulton Homes at Ballpark Village, first amended.
Thank you. Will the city council enter a motion in a second, which they have already? I see a motion in a second. With that, open for discussion. Number one up is, here you go, Councilmember Loretano.
I just wanted to let the residents know, I think, because we talked a little bit in city speak, Kristen. So basically, it's this development, when this goes in, we're not changing how many people were originally going to be in this area. But what we're doing is, once this development goes in, there's going to be some improvements to the roadways around this area. And hopefully that will also help this whole area with the traffic. So I think that might answer some of your question. As this goes in, it's not going to make the traffic worse. We're prepared, and they're going to make the roads bigger around this area, and then lights will go in and stuff. So that should help this whole community. Does that help at all?
Good. Who up next? Councilmember Campbell?
Do we have any idea how many homes they want to put in here? The number of homes?
Yes, 796.
Holy Toledo. 796, so 796, and everybody has at least 2 cars. That's over 1,500 cars additional in that area with our ballpark and our practice fields. We're really going to have to work a good traffic plan for that area. Once this goes in, we can't continue the way we are today with this going in there. We've got to do a better job of it, but we don't have to talk about it tonight. I don't want to derail the thing, but I understand where she's coming from, and she's absolutely right. When we do have the 4th of July, everybody is parked up and down Goodyear Boulevard, and they're parked on Bullard, and they're on the road and the side of the road, and they're all over. They'd probably go on the airport if they could get there. But no, I understand her concerns, and I'm sure that once, as this moves through the city process, we will address those concerns and do the best we can to mitigate the additional traffic, because we will be aware of that, and that's it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Campbell. Councilmember Hampton, you're up.
Yeah, thank you. So I know we've already approved this project for houses, and I just wanted to verify, originally when this came to us, is the corner of Yuma and Estrella, was that originally multifamily and now they're making it single-family homes? Or was it always single-family homes?
This zoning, I believe this quadrant was a mix of employment and retail.
Okay, even originally when Fulton,
I
because I know we've
believe
seen
so.
this before already,
Mhm.
so now we're redefining it even more so to make their conditions single-story, things like that, the pool, different amenities. I thought for some reason that top left corner, when Fulton originally came, was gonna be multifamily there, but maybe I'm wrong.
And there was some multifamily around this corner. The four corners of Estrella Parkway and Yuma had a very myriad of uses between retail, entertainment, business park, very high-density multifamily. So there still does remain some retail and multifamily at the other corners.
Yeah, but I just thought this is getting more narrowed down to where more specific for them to now they're gonna have a hard plan. So no, I think it's fine. Like I said, I approved it before, so I think Fulton puts a good product together. So I appreciate the Rose Law Group for bringing this back. So thank you.
All right, I don't see any more on the board here. Can you open up the voting? Motion carries 7-0. Will the city clerk please read ordinance number 2023-1567 by title only?
Adopt ordinance number 2023-1567, conditionally rezoning approximately 156 acres of property located at the southeast corner of Estrella Parkway and Yuma Road to be known as Fulton Homes at Ballpark Village, amending the zoning map of the city of Goodyear, providing for non-abridgment, providing for corrections, providing for severability, providing for an effective date, providing for penalties, and directing the city clerk to record a copy of this ordinance.
Thank you. Will the council please enter a motion and a second to adopt the ordinance? I see a motion and a second up there for 2023-1567. Open for council discussion. Seeing none, open the voting, please. Passes 7-0. Thank you. Our last public hearing tonight is to consider annexation of 1.81 acres along Broadway Road alignment and 0.42 acres along Saraville Avenue alignment, both located southeast of Saraville Avenue in Maricopa County, 85. Open public hearing.
All right.
He's
good.
back again.
I'm back again.
All right.
So good evening. Here with a request from the applicant Wendy Riddell for an annexation. This is the part of the process where we are opening the public hearing based on the council feedback at the previous meetings. So at the conclusion of this presentation, staff will receive the public input and feedback concerning this proposed annexation and whether it should be moved forward or not. So this is two separate actions, two separate cases, but they're in very close proximity to one another, so they're being presented as one item. So there are two properties. The first is 1.42 acres along the Saraville Avenue alignment between Maricopa County Highway 85 on the north, the future State Route 303 or State Route 30, Tres Rios Freeway on the south. And the second property is this 1.81 acres along the Broadway Road alignment between Saraville Avenue on the west, the alignment of it, and 159th Avenue alignment on the east. And if the annexations are ultimately approved by council, the owner would seek to rezone the property, and that would include all 45.16 acres of their property, and with these annexation pieces would create 47.39 acres of proposed industrial development. The owner owns the land that is just north of here, that is within the city. That owner owns all this land here south of the annexation, also within the city. So these two slivers remain outside of the city. Above are the council policy criteria. They discuss the ability to serve the property, the long-term desirability of the property, the likelihood that the property would, if developed, be zoned or developed outside of the city limits in the county. Both properties are generally located south and southeast of Saraville Avenue and MC 85. They're all owned by Endicott Properties, that's the owner. The owner also owns, again, the two properties north and south. Again, they seek to bring those combined 2.23 acres into the city limits, and if they are annexed into the city, they would come in with their county equivalent zoning. The current county equivalent zoning is Rural 43 or RU 43, so that city equivalent zoning would be the AU zoning of agricultural urban. Should they decide to rezone the property after that point, they would need to come back to y'all for a separate action. And when we talk about providing basic services, we examine the three major service areas on the screen. The property is intended to have access to Saraville Avenue, which will ultimately be developed within the city, and Saraville is the planned access point to the State Route 30 freeway from the Maricopa County Highway 85. The property is also located adjacent to an existing police beat, so if it was annexed in, would be incorporated into that police beat, and fire service would be provided from Station 184, approximately 2.3 miles away from here, or Station 181, approximately 5 miles away from here. Upon annexation, the property would also be served by the City of Goodyear per the Integrated Water Master Plan. With that overview, staff is seeking the public comment period to commence and the annexation of approximately 1.81 acres of property along Broadway Road alignment between Saraville Avenue on the west and 159th Avenue on the east, generally located Saraville and MC 85, and also that .42 acres located along the Saraville Avenue alignment, Maricopa County Highway 85 in Saraville, between SR 30 and MC 85. With that, council's seeking council's public hearing.
Thank you. Is the applicant here?
The applicant is not here.
Okay. Any speaker cards? No, Mayor. All right, would anybody in the audience like to speak? All right, seeing none, still can a council enter a motion and a second to approve the annexation of approximately 1.81 acres along Broad? Whoops, you're right. Will the council please enter a motion and a second to approve the annexation of the approximately 1.81 acres along the Broadway Road alignment between the Saraville alignment and the 159th Avenue alignment, generally located southeast of Saraville Avenue in Maricopa County 85. Do I get a motion? I have a motion and a second on the board. Council discussion. Wally?
Okay, so why are we doing this one? Did they forget to bring it into Goodyear? What's the story on this one?
Quick story is 1970s, we like to annex a lot of stuff, and we like to leave the roads
And we
behind.
missed it?
We wanted to leave it behind, but now that it's ready to be developed and there's no road there, we want it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we good? Seeing no more, open the voting. Passes 7-0. Will the council please enter a motion and a second to approve the annexation of approximately .42 acres of property along Saraville Avenue alignment between Maricopa County 85 and the future Arizona State Route 30 Tres Rios Freeway, generally located southeast of Saraville Avenue and Maricopa County 85. I see a motion and a second, so do. Request to speak item, please open. Seeing none, no further discussion. Go ahead and open the voting. Passes 7-0. Thank you. All right, now we're at the business. I'd like to remind council to wait for a motion and a second before discussing. Next business item is to consider approving the preliminary plat for Fulton Homes at Ballpark Village.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is the next phase of the zoning process, and this is being brought forward this evening by Ricky Horowitz for a preliminary plat within the city. I won't bore you to death because we talked about this a lot, but this property is 164.92 acres. That includes up to the center lines of the road where they're going to need to dedicate roadways. It is, again, southeast corner of Yuma and Estrella Parkway, this upside-down L shape right here, and is, in 30 days, will be zoned PAD amended. Again, zooming closer, it's just northeast of the ballpark and those developments I mentioned earlier today. All right, so at the zoning hearings today and back in April, you saw the exhibit on the left and this exhibit in the middle, the exhibit on the left. This is the lot configuration and it matches almost identically with what they're proposing today. The middle is their landscape plan that you saw within the zoning cases, and that is included in this preliminary plat package. And on the right is just us making the zoning categories that have been approved by council into the lots. That would lead us to 796 lots, 87 tracts, and that would be the preliminary plat for this property. So staff has evaluated this preliminary plat against the zoning, the PAD, and the proposed rezoning, the design guidelines, the zoning ordinance, and other engineering and development factors. And with no major concerns being found, staff recommends you approve the preliminary plat for Fulton Homes at Ballpark Village, which will contain those 796 lots and 87 tracts, subject to the stipulations that are found within the staff report.
Thank you. Any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Anybody in the audience like to speak? No? All right, council approve a motion and a second to approve the preliminary plat for Fulton Homes at Ballpark Village, subdividing approximately 164.92 gross acres into 796 lots and 87 tracts. Do I see a motion, a second? I do. I see a motion and a second. Any discussion? Open discussion? Seeing none, open the voting. Passes 7-0. The last item is to consider approving a preliminary plat for La Jolla Vista. Again, Christian, you're back.
Hot seat.
Hey, let's go ahead.
All righty. Here with you today with a request from Leslie Chatburn for a preliminary plat of property within the city. The overall property we are discussing today is 201 gross acres, and it's located in central Goodyear in the area we call West Goodyear. It is on the northeast corner of Citrus Road and Lower Buckeye Road. The property is currently zoned both R14 and R16 with a PAD overlay for residential master plan community. And the property is this, I guess they're all L shapes today, this L shape right here. So zooming in a little closer, you can see that this property is just south of the Durango Street and County Island. That's called Sweetwater Estates. It's in the county. It is just east of Pradera. It is just west and south of Cottonflower and Bocine Lomas. It is northeast of the Citrus Park development we're referring to today. It's north of a proposed Agua Fria Union School District high school site that they own, and it is north of what was formerly called Cotton Commons, but you will see referred to as the Artesian at West Goodyear. Very fancy. All right. So at the zoning hearings back in October, you saw the plan on the left. That is the land use and zoning districts there. Today, and you also saw this landscape plan here in the middle. Today, what is being asked for is a pre-plat and landscaping for this property right here, nearly identical to what you saw proposed in the zoning. Staff has evaluated the preliminary plat against the zoning, PAD overlay, design guidelines, zoning ordinance, and other engineering and design development factors. And with no major concerns being found, staff recommends you approve the preliminary plat for La Jolla Vista, which will contain 736 lots and 59 tracts, including that school site, subject to the stipulations found in the staff report.
You good?
That's it.
All right. Anybody in the audience like to speak? All right, seeing none, will the city council enter a motion and a second to approve the preliminary plat for La Jolla Vista subdividing approximately 201.01 gross acres into 736 lots and 59 tracts? Do I have a motion and a second? I do. I have a motion and a second. Open up the request to speak, please. I see nothing. No for further discussion. Can we go ahead and open the voting? Passes 7-0. Well, don't forget, we have an executive session, so executive meeting, don't go anywhere after this. But anyway, does the council have any comments that you want to make?
I do.
Go ahead.
Okay. I would like to know. I'm sorry.
It's on.
Okay, my comments for this evening are, I am getting complaints about so many road construction projects within our city. It seems every major arterial in our city has something being done to it. And I want to know, when these permits are given, is there someone that's in charge of these permits so that they don't have all of our streets at the same time being ripped to shreds? Because we cannot move. We can't get through this city very easily. And I've told folks that I'm not sure that we keep track of that, but I would hope that when we're ripping up Litchfield Road, we're not doing Bullard at the same time we're doing Pebble Creek Parkway and McDowell and Yuma, but it seems that's what we're doing. So I would like someone to look into it and to report back to us how we can make it better, or have a system, because soon as someone fixes laying the gas line on Litchfield Road, here comes the fiber optic ripping up again, and here comes the water coming up again, and it's just nuts. So
We'll get it for you, Walt.
thank you.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Anybody else? I just want to add one thing. I think it was the other day, we had a roundtable discussion with Senator Sinema. It went very, very well as far as how she's trying to help us on the water and several issues that concern the city. So I think she's a great ally for local government, and we're going to keep working with her to keep working and moving our stuff forward on there. And we had with Wally on the Buckeye and Goodyear Bullard Wash, woohoo, that Wynette kind of sponsored on there, and it was cold. It was cold. But it was fun. It was a nice little team building with Buckeye and Goodyear, so that was kind of nice there, so.
Dan showed up in shorts.
Yeah, I know.
With his whole family.
Yeah, I know.
Great time.
It's freezing out there in dancing shorts, go figure. Anyway, okay. City manager have anything to report?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just 2 items. As you all will recall, we have secured 46 acres around the Goodyear Ballpark, is now city-owned. We've been working on a study as to what that possibly can be. There is a town hall that's going to be held at the Goodyear Recreation Campus tomorrow at 6 p.m., where we're seeking public input on potential concepts before that comes to council for your visioning. Just a note to please bring your smartphone fully charged, as there's interactive input throughout the town hall that you'll use your smartphone. Second item is our Wag and Tag will be held from 9 to noon. 9 a.m. to noon on Saturday, January 28th at Goodyear Civic Square. There's an agility course for pets, a canine obedience demo, a pet caricature artist, on-site pet vaccinations, arts and crafts for pets and their humans, and a pet fashion show. Visit the Wag and Tag Cafe for, it gets better. Visit the Wag and Tag Cafe for puppuccinos and other pet favorites. Food trucks, live DJs, giveaways, raffles, and more. Thank you.
Yes, really. All right. Bill, what you got?
So I've made this comment to the manager previous when I found out about this, but since you've made it public tonight, we're doing a public vignette of getting public input on these 46 acres, and then council's gonna get it, as opposed to council saying, we like these ideas, let's go ask the public if they do too. This seems a little reversed, because by the time we see it, if the public has said, yeah, we want a 20-acre lake, and we want all this there, we're gonna say this isn't practical, or this is, and I think we've been set up for failure in that situation. So I'd like to kind of find out what the theory was behind taking this to the public first and then coming to us instead of the other way around, which we've historically done.
So thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Stipp. This is the way we've done the Parks and Rec master plan, is where we had the consultants, the study, we got the public input, like the charrettes and going through. So certainly it's not the only way this could have been done. It was the method chosen for this event, but the feedback on whether or not this is the path forward for future visioning sessions we're certainly open to that.
Go ahead.
Okay, I have participated in almost every public opinion that they've had about the parks and this, that, and the other. And I can remember going when we were building the community park where the fire station is. And I had a list of things I wanted to see in the park. But the park was already pre-planned. So they didn't want to hear anything from the public. They just wanted to tell us what they were going to do. So when they were going to do a public, if you're going to open it to the public, we need to listen to them. Whether we follow what they want, that's one thing. But we really need to hear from them, because I kept saying, why don't we have an amphitheater? Why don't we have this? Why don't we have that? And we didn't get any of that. And we ended it up in the Bullard Wash that we couldn't use it because we couldn't park and get to it. So, I just think it's really important that we keep talking to our residents. And you're right, they might come out with, they want a Disneyland, and we'll just say, well, we got to do something else.
Yeah, here's the
And
neighborhood
then bite the
carnival.
bullet.
This is far different. I just wanted to defend my,
yeah,
I'm not going to debate it.
Okay, we're starting to get into a
This is different than a
discussion.
park.
Yeah, I know.
All right, I think the attorney's telling us
I know.
for
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, with that, next meeting of the city council retreat will be February 3rd at 1 p.m. and February 4th at 8. Yep.
We're going to E-session, so don't
Well,
close
I'm
the
going to
meeting.
I know.
Oh, you have that
That-
gavel, and you look
no.
like you're getting ready.
No. It's an anticipation. I'm trying, it's a mental thing. I want out, okay? Oh, gosh. Oh, Lord, please save me. Okay. So we have an item for discussion in executive session. A vote may be held to call an executive session for the following reasons: pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A34. Discussion, any consultation with the city attorney for legal advice to consider its position and instrument its attorney regarding the city's position regarding contracts that are subject of negotiation relating to Westcore Goodyear LLC development agreement and amendments. I'd like a motion and a second. I got a motion from Councilmember Stick, the second from the Vice Mayor. Open it up now. Any discussion? Well, I know, just motion, a second. See it. Clerk, open the voting. All right, 7-0, unanimous. Now we'll convene an executive session, which means upstairs we shall go.